Hello, good morning, and happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and we have a loaded panel for what is expected to be a lot of human element talk. Remake-Station 5 continues its trend as it has been announced that Until Dawn, phenomenal game from start to finish, probably one of the best looking graphics to date. Hey, look at this. Holy matrimony. We got Hargeet Johnny rolling in here. You know what I'm going to have to do, folks? Pause for a hot second. I'm going to have to stop this footage because look at all these beautiful men. I have to see their faces because, well, that's what good hosts do. Let me just change this up over here so you can see our fine faces as well. Let me bring in the six panel bar. There we go. Okay, so we're going to stop the footage of Tesla versus I don't remember what it was. Honestly, folks, I apologize. I'm a bit disheveled. I'm red in the face. I just came up from picking up the wash from the dryer. I've been running since 6 this morning. We have a great show for you. We have an amazing panel. We have a lot to get into. Obviously, the 1900 layoffs coming out of the way of Microsoft, which of course encompasses Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox, is the talk of the town. So much so that, of course, some of the senators, our local government, and some of the wider spread government from Washington, like a Senator Warren, who didn't even write this tweet herself. Probably one of her woke interns wrote it for her about, you see, I told you this ABK was going to be bad, and shut up. That's not exactly what happened here. It's a false reaction, but there is reaction to have about 1,900 people losing their jobs. No one here is going to take that lightly. But listen, we're not making excuses for a $3 trillion company. Shout out to many people in the Xbox community, including myself, who have pushed back against Microsoft, because remember, this comes at a really bad time. This isn't because of ABK. This is because of redundancy across this particular merger. But prior to this, there were 4,000 other layoffs from a multitude of other companies, publishers, and studios, including Riot Games, which, by the way, makes money hand over fist. They let 500 people go. So again, layoffs, I think that we're closing in, and it's a scary day. It's a scary day on January 26th, where we haven't even gotten out of the month. There's been 6,000 plus workers in the gaming industry that have lost their jobs. This is no laughing matter. It's no light matter. We're going to cover it like the professionals that that we are. And of course, on the back half of the show, we're going to cover what's going on at PlayStation, because I'm sorry, if the media doesn't want to talk about this, then we're going to talk about it, because I'm telling you right now, and I got to go right to Hargeet Chani, the last one in here. He said it the other day. He's like, can we finally admit that there is an Xbox tax? Well, I think that he's onto something. And I know that people poo-poo it as you just a bunch of tinfoil hat knuckleheads. But I am here to tell you, Hargeet, if this was Xbox going back into the Xbox One era and bringing remasters instead of first-party games, there would be a riot in the streets. I'm sorry, even if they were in Game Pass. But Sony is charging $70 to buy the game. So, welcome. How you feeling?
I'm all right. I guess it was pretty sad news with the 1900 layoffs yesterday, but I think that's part of M&A, right? That's what happens, unfortunately. And I guess they changed directions on some games. That was kind of surprising. I'll have to,
we'll get into that as well. But you know something, though? There is, to your point about the changing directions in the survival game for Blizzard, I have now spoken to someone this morning that has updated me on how big of a mess that game was.
Gotcha.
And it was in such a state that they've rebooted it multiple times. What I have heard is that obviously it started out on Unreal Engine 4. Somehow it moved to mobile. Then it was going back to Unreal Engine 4. Then they were going to move it to Unreal Engine 5. It was a mess. And yes, 100 people on that development team apparently lost their jobs, and some of those team members, not all of them, are being moved to other Blizzard projects. At least that's what that's what Matt Booty had to say yesterday. I don't know what the number is, whether it's 10 people or all 100 people. We don't know, but
Yeah.
that a portion of the team is moving over to different uh, projects within Blizzard.
Yeah, I mean, it's still sad no matter how you cut it, right? 1,900 people. That's it's part of a bigger trend.
Out of yeah,
But there's also, like, when this started in early 2022, with the acquisition announcement, I think they were at like 10,000-ish employees, and they scaled up to 17,000 before the acquisition happened.
yes.
So you have to look at like the realities of what Microsoft signed up for and what they ended up with, and say, was this what they wanted? When they analyzed ABK for acquisition, this was the slate, and then that changed in the middle, and that's fair. The company continues until the acquisition completes, right? And whatever the management at the time wanted to do, they can keep doing that. But it did significantly change by a factor of about 70%, right? So then they decided to change course. Okay, that happens. This happens. M&A happens. This is just normal stuff. It's still sad as hell. It doesn't matter. It's still sad, right? But
it's still about 10%.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of that. And I don't know what the ZeniMax and Xbox what those layoffs were about. I haven't seen anything specific about that. I'm guessing they've got stuff from ABK that might have been better than what they had internally, and they used that, but I have no idea, right? I don't know what those specific ones were about. What we do see is some games were canceled, some different parts of different studios were sort of shuttered, and that's kind of just part and parcel of M&A, I guess. So we'll just have to kind of deal with that as it comes up. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's kind of how I've been. Like, yesterday was an odd, annoying day to see that many people laid up. But it's been a trend this month. It's been pretty bad so far, right? There's lots of publishers, lots of studios being culled. It's just part of it, I guess. There was a bubble as we were going into the pandemic. That bubble's burst, and now you have to hit whatever. There's also just economic headwinds. There's just realities of what's out there, and it's not just gaming. There's a lot of other areas being impacted. It's just life, when you have massive things happen, there's consequences, right?
Yeah. Well, obviously, Dreadpool, we've seen this consistently going on in Embracer. One studio after another, even some of the bigger ones like Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, who we are hoping are still around for Microsoft to actually purchase if they haven't already, been seeing significant layoffs now. And again, Embracer is a little bit different than the ABK thing. Embracer bit off a little bit more than they can chew. They overspent, at least in my opinion. And now, unfortunately, because of the overspending, they had to lay off a lot of people. What I don't like is, and again, no names here, folks, because I don't need to do that. I find it to be disingenuous or even unprofessional to mention other podcast names when I have criticism for them, because you know who I'm talking about, and I don't need to put them on blast. They do that themselves. I will say that anyone using this situation as rhetoric for console war should be ashamed of themselves. And I don't care how long you've been doing that, whether you're new to the podcast game or you've been here for 10 years, you are a disgusting human being if you use this as console war rhetoric. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's gross, and you should be ashamed. But good morning, Dread. How you feeling?
I'm doing great. Having my coffee, had a bagel. So
Nice.
We're here, excited to be here. And, that's the thing, right? We've called it before, even before the merger even happened, that there was going to be a duplication. Same thing happened with Bethesda, ZeniMax. There was a duplication, and sometimes it's not even the fact that, oh well, you're with Bethesda or you're with ABK, so we don't need you. It's sometimes the better person that's better qualified, just the numbers just don't add up for them, and they get pushed out. And the thing is, you guys got to remember, this is business. It's nothing personal. It's business. They don't want to lose their employees, but they have to stay afloat. Otherwise, they lose everybody. And sometimes cutting costs are there's going to be some people in the crosshairs that get canned, that it's unfortunate, so, and as Boom said, using this as a political fanboy war is ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing that. We should be more concerned with just people in general, because it's across the industry and across the world. It's not just gaming, so you guys are all worried about gamers. What about the other person that just lost their job through another no fault of their own? I mean, I've seen it happen in my industry all the time. Come in for a special meeting. In the meantime, the rest of us are like, what meeting? We didn't know there was a mandatory meeting. And that's how we found out that there was a group of us that were going into this meeting and a group of us that were not. The group that went into that meeting got laid off. We had no idea. We didn't see it coming. When you see stuff like this, you can kind of predict that there will be some of that to happen at some point in time, and we knew it was going to happen this year. So, it's a shame, but it is what it is. And if you really want to help, go out and help them find places to apply for, and stuff like that. Do positive things versus, oh, it's bad Microsoft, bad this, bad juju here, or bad juju there because it's Xbox. No, it's not. It's everywhere. And be honest about it. So that's pretty much it. I mean,
No, we're going to get into it again. We're going to spend some time talking about it, because I think there is a conversation to be had about the game cancellation. A lot of people, like Pong is devastated because obviously he in Blizzard he trusts. Their leader, Mike Ybarra, former Microsoft employee, former Xbox head of many years, 20 years actually. Is not coming back. He is stepping down. He is leaving the company. There's been some talk in the background of why this is happening. I was listening to PM and the PM last night, and of course, Palm and Mav just continue to do a great job there on Thursdays. He considers it. Pong seems to consider it a big L for Microsoft. I don't. I think that there's a little bit more to it. I mean, again, this is public knowledge, folks. I'm not dropping a tidbit bomb here. Supposedly, and again, we've all heard this, that Mike Ybarra left Microsoft, left Xbox initially not under the greatest of terms when he went to take over Blizzard. Now, Blizzard is his dream job. You heard him say they're gonna have to drag me out of here kicking and screaming because he's a Blizzard guy. That's his jam, right? This is, again, talk about dream come true. That's it for Mike. But unfortunately, there was some things that were posted yesterday. And again, this is not coming from me. This is literally posted that he did some pretty outlandish things during some meetings at Blizzard. I know I do. Are those true? Is that true? Well, shit, I don't know because I wasn't in the room. But if that happened,
yeah, there was some public controversy a couple years ago when he was over there with some of the things that he put out there, and they had to back it off.
He had to backtrack on some, and I know exactly what you're talking about. As a matter of fact, it had to do with men and women and their salaries, and had to do with the fact that they weren't being paid the same, and some things were said that were kind of out in the ether. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. That's men, women. They may be different sexes, but they're still people, and if they have skills, they need to get paid equally. Equal pay for everyone. I don't care, what race, creed, color, sexual orientation you have. If you can do the job as the same guy and gal on the left, you need to get paid as much as them. Sorry, that's just the way it should work.
And that's
it doesn't work like that.
And that's the thing, is we don't know who initiated the separation or why it was even initiated.
Well, we kind of do, Dredd. We kind of do, because Matt Booty put it out there yesterday where he said he had a conversation with Mike, and they kind of agreed that it was time for him to part ways. That's out in the ether. So, I mean,
but what led to that?
That's the question. That's the question.
What I'm getting at. That's kind of what I'm getting at. We don't know the other parts of the factors that led to this. We do know what was out there and what is out there. And that's where we have to, play detective and kind of figure out, put the pins in the different places and string it along and all that. But again, we know enough but we don't know every little detail that has transpired, and we never will.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, we won't unless someone writes a book, and which I will
Right.
buy, and I will
Now,
read it.
as an executive, he also could just own a lot of shares and also have just been paid a massive amount of money.
Which
And,
he probably.
at some point,
the,
you might just say,
Yeah.
"My bank account looks
I
pretty
don't
good.
know. Yeah.
How old am I? I don't care to do this anymore. I don't
Yeah.
want to play the politics game." Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
His own studio.
You never
Exactly,
know
yeah.
if that's just it, right? It's like,
Mhm.
And
I
he can
don't
also, Mike could always find his way over to PlayStation because they're looking for good executives. Because quite frankly, they have none. I'm not lying, folks.
No, but that's a serious question. That could be the thing. Maybe he was approached. We don't know. Again, not trying to speculate, but I'm just trying to put stuff out there so you guys kind of backtrack a little bit. Not you in the panel, but the people in the community that are freaking out. We don't know. There could be other factors that are out there. Like we don't know what the cause of separation. Could it have been that he was approached by PlayStation? Hey, we know that your job could be in jeopardy. Here's a money bag. Figure it out, and then come over. We don't know. Not saying that that's what it is, but there's many different possibilities. And with us not knowing, it's all speculation. But quit. People need to quit overreacting over something that we will never know. In the future, we may find out more information and give us that aha moment. This is really what happened and how this kind of came to be. But that could have been just the tipping point.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into it, Red. Crispy Bomb, let's bring you into the conversation. Welcome. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. And I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs. There is somebody that works for Blizzard that could run that company, that subset of Microsoft. His name is Rod Ferguson. And that's what I'm going to say. Because I guarantee.
I got news for you. I am not going to be surprised in the least if sometime next week we hear that he is now taking over Blizzard.
I'm telling you, that man, he is not perfect. But one thing he does is he gets teams to bring out the game, bring out a vision. And he has proven that time and again. And I think that is very important to what Microsoft's vision for Blizzard is. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. And I think that's definitely a talking point. I think that might be become a reality. Silent Cypher, good morning, sir. I didn't expect you to be here today. This is such a treat. What's going on? How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here hanging out with you guys. It's always nice to have a 3-day weekend, and this is the best way to start off, right? Is hanging out with some friends. It's been a heck of a week on social media, in companies. It's going to be an interesting conversation, so I'm happy I could make it.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, we're glad to have you here. We're gonna get into it in a second. Fuzzy Belvedere, what are 26 days in the new year? It started off with doom and gloom, Xbox going third party, out by 2027, to one of the best showcases probably in the last 5 years, even as stout, if you will, their June showcase, which was, in my opinion, flawless. To now this layoff that just seems to have no end. And in the midst of all of this madness, you have a game that is an Xbox console exclusive made by 50 people from what they described as, we put this game together on flash drives. We have buckets of them, being one of the biggest games in the last 10 years. I would even say that it has hit a fever pitch in Pal World that it might even at one point eclipse, and it has eclipsed anyway, Fortnite on Xbox. What a first 26 days, dude.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been a roller coaster ride as far as gaming in the industry is concerned. Some extremely high highs and some really low lows. But we're going to get through, the conversation on a lot of this stuff. I mean, some of the stuff we kind of saw a mile away. Some of the stuff may be a bit of a surprise. But overall, I think whether it's 3 months or 6 months from now, we'll be thinking about other, hopefully more positive things as far as that industry is concerned. But we got a lot to talk about today. So let's do this.
Hargeet, let's get right to it, man. I mean, obviously, this is a wide palette. There is no wrong way to start it and finish it. I don't know what you want to talk about first, but you know the comings and goings at ABK, the layoffs in general. I know some people seem to be a little perturbed by what the hey, it's just business, but no one. I don't think anyone on this part. First of all, understand that we're having a general conversation. We can't move the industry. We are podcasters. We can give our heartfelt disappointment. I will say, and I'm going to get on the Randall Thor bandwagon here. It's definitely a bad look for Xbox and for Microsoft, coming off of just announcing they're a $3 trillion company, the only one in the world, and the closest one to them is Apple. And then you, of course, announced 1,900 layoffs. Now, granted, I understand that there are redundancies in a merger. There are going to be departments that overlap one another, and you don't need that many people. Where I will push back, Hargeet, and give some major criticism is for the entire team of that delivers physical media. As you saw by my thumbnail, physical media is basically dead. And that's where I'm going to take it. Obviously, I've already had an opportunity yesterday to talk about my disappointment of so many people losing their jobs, because, like I said, I'm fortunate. I'm retired. I have a pension. Mrs. Boom is still working. It's we have money coming in, so I'm fortunate like that. But I could not imagine being in a position, especially if you live in California. I'm sorry to say the cost of living there is redonkulous. I'm not talking like you think it's expensive here in New York, and it's expensive as shit here. It is everything that is, let's say, for instance, $5 is probably $8 in California, and that goes for eggs and whatever else you want to throw in there. Just add $3 to whatever it is that you're going to buy in your state to California, because that's probably what it is, including gas. It's ridiculous. So if you are one of these poor people that lost their jobs, you got to think about that. Holy shit, what do I do now? Because again, Microsoft specifically is giving them a year worth of health coverage, which is amazing, and is giving them 6 to 1 year worth of salary. That's a big deal. So people aren't being shown the door with nothing. But what I was made to learn yesterday, and I don't recall who on the panel said it. If you read the statement, it says, based on your state's laws.
Well, based on location, and that mostly has to do with countries, right? So
okay,
there are some minor state differences, but it's very, very minor. There's not much. The U.S. has a pretty much standard as far as things go. But other countries, they do have requirements, right? There are some places where there are works councils. You have to get approvals and whatnot through there, and then follow whatever laws are applicable, right? So, but yeah, in the U.S., it's generally it's a at will, right? You're terminated or hired at will, so that's just kind of how it goes. So if there are mass layoffs, you usually have to notify certain states because they can, take care of the unemployment part of it, right? So they got to just be prepared for it. But outside of that, it's just pretty much the norm. But yeah, as far as like the layoffs, look, this is it's kind of sad that like we've eclipsed 50-60% of the total layoffs of last year in the first month of this year. And unfortunately, I think the trend is going to continue, and it's not just in gaming. It's just a normal trend.
Industry. This is worldwide. Yeah, absolutely.
It's happening everywhere. The economy is just kind of it's catching up to the things that were done a few years ago, and that eventually you were going to pay the piper. That's just the way it is, right? That sucks. I know it does, but it's life. Unfortunately, this is the way it is, right? So we now are going to fix things. That's what's going to happen, and that will mean there'll be some turmoil, unfortunately. Now again, I'm not going to make excuses for this. The most valuable company in the world is laying off people. Could they sustain 1,900 more paychecks? Yeah, they could. Obviously they can. They're going to pay them for next year, so they can obviously sustain it. They're going to make more than 100 billion in profit this year, I'm sure. And it's just the way it is. But they're still going to have to be responsible for what they do and responsible to their company, their board, and their shareholders. That's just the way it is, right? And I get it, right? This is just part of mergers. it does kind of suck. They could have waited it out. I don't think it would have killed them to wait, till the year ends for them, which is June-ish, to say, okay, we've absorbed everything. We analyzed all the things that we're doing now, right? This seems very soon, right? Which means they, like some people have speculated, they've probably been looking at this for a while and just went ahead and executed what they had planned already. Because it's within a couple of months, it seems like they were already kind of on that road, right? It would have been nice if they just waited it out a bit and said, okay, over time, we're looking at this game. This doesn't look right. We're gonna take that out. That does mean some job losses. Nope, they just bunched it up. 1,900 are gone, right? That's kind of sad. I think with ZeniMax they were a little bit better, where they kind of had a big chunk, but it was pretty small in number. And then they said, okay, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. Hey, this thing, we don't need to do that anymore. We're going to change that here, change that here, right? That's a bit better. This is a big chunk in one shot, right? You also have to look at it from its 22,000 employees. 1,900 is sizable, but in comparison, you play that out. But these are just the things that are happening. The physicals thing, as far as physical media, look, we got that hint from the leak, the FTC document leak.
We sure did. See now, my question to you folks, and again, obviously, this is going to be a conversation where we're going to be a little bit all over the place. So by all means, please, we're trying to. It's a lot, and you got to remember, we're trying to fit 2 hours worth of news in with 6 people. So by all means, it's gonna be one of those shows that is not gonna have a detailed show notes, because obviously we're gonna be here, there, and everywhere. But Hargeet, I want to bring up Jez Corden, great friend of this channel, great friend of the community. He was on point, as Jez Corden usually is, with, of course, where he represents Windows Central, and of course the Xbox 2 podcast with Randall Thor, which Randall Thor was out there on these streets giving Microsoft the business. And I have to stand with my brother. I have to say, yeah, I agree with what Rand had to say. But this is what Jez Corden had to say regarding this 1,900 layoff yesterday. He says, multiple sources tell me that Microsoft is laying off the entire internal customer support teams for ABK games, save a few. Microsoft will outsource the rest to external companies abroad, which sucks. ABK was one of the few game publishers with high quality internal customer support teams. And he follows it up. I mean, I'm going to try and get these in as we go, because he had a lot to say yesterday. This is where it gets we start talking about the physical thing, Hargeet. He says Microsoft has also shut down departments dedicated to bringing Xbox games to physical retail, which, if you've seen the digital-only Xbox console leaks, well, you can guess, you can get an idea of where Microsoft is going. Now, Hargeet, just for context, folks, this is something that was already out in the ether like 2 weeks ago, where Target, Best Buy, Walmart, and a few other of the big chains were like, yeah, we're not carrying physical Xbox discs anymore. And it's moving on to some of the other ones. I could see Sony going down this route as well, because obviously they're hurting for money, and they may have to change their ways of where you can buy the game if you can't buy physical. But what are your thoughts on the physical? Because I saw a lot of people really upset, which they won't be able to get their physical. I think that there needs to be at least a limited run on a game. It doesn't have to be all games. It should be the big ones, that there should be a limited run, so people who like physical could still buy it.
Yeah, and look, they have the analytics on what actually sells physical versus digital. Especially in a world where Game Pass exists, it probably makes it even more challenging. I personally like the disc drive because it allows me to play my movies. Right, yes. I have a 4K Blu-ray collection, and I like to be able to just watch those. But I have been slowing down on physical purchases. I also like physical in that, like, I have many Xboxes in the house, so I buy certain games that are like kid friendly. And so if somebody comes over and they want to play something, I just put the disc in the box, go play it, right? It makes it easy for me because they don't. If we had done what the Xbox One started with, where I can say all of my boxes have my account associated and therefore all my games are available, that would have been awesome. That's not what we have. So unfortunately, I have to basically say it's a disc. Otherwise, I have to log into that and I can't be logged in where I'm supposed to be playing it, right? So it just becomes a headache, right? So in this world, if they can, expand to the digital world where, hey, all my Xboxes are associated with me and therefore my account, everything I own is just available, that'd be awesome. But that's not where we are. And that's the thing that I would like to see transition before we say we're getting rid of all the physical, because those are the minor conveniences that I enjoy because I can just get the physical disc and put it in. If you say it's only the games that are multi-hundred million, big AAA games, well, that doesn't help me either because I like Lego games, because those games are the ones that I'll like take the physical disc here to just play this Lego game, right? Because it's nice and simple. It's usually very, very kid friendly, right? So you can just easily put that in and hey, go play this, right? So I don't know what the answer is long term, but you're gonna say that digital is the trend. It just is, right? Even on PlayStation, most of the people are buying digital versus physical. It's just the facts, right? So we just have to deal with that reality. At some point, the economics of it are just going to just make it not viable. Now, this doesn't mean that, by the way, they're just getting rid of it. They could just outsource the whole thing and say, for physical, go talk to XYZ company, and they'll help you make the physical discs, and we're just getting out of the business of dealing with it ourselves. That's a possibility, right? But I don't know if that's going to happen either. I think they're just looking at the world, especially if they're going to have two digital-only consoles, the Series S and the new X are digital-only. You can kind of see the shift is just happening, unfortunately, right? At least PlayStation's giving you an option with an attachable drive, right? You can actually buy the separate disc drive and still go physical if you like. But the Xbox, it looks like I don't know what's happening because we haven't seen the actual full thing. But from what we understand from the leaks, it's just digital and digital. There's no drive that you can go buy separately. So if that's the path, you can kind of see the foundations here, right? That's kind of how it's gonna end up going. So it's kind of sad, but I also can't blame them. It costs money to do physical. It just costs money. There's also the retail cost of the game, right? So if you put it out there, the retailer gets a chunk, and that's fair, right? The retailer should get a chunk, right? If you go digital, that chunk goes directly to the platform. So it's 70, 10, 20, it's 70, 30. 30% goes to the platform instead of 10. And so they've got to be looking at that. Well, why the hell should we do this? I'll just take the 30. Thank you. And it is what it is, right? So and it's somewhat disappointing for consumers, right? Because we get choice when it comes to that, right? Like GameStop might give you a discount, or Best Buy might give you a discount. That doesn't happen as much, right? That becomes more of a problem. And then the digital storefronts become a problem, right? Right now they're kind of locked. It's everything Xbox store, everything PlayStation store, everything Nintendo store. Well, that's going to have to change if this is the direction, right? Because on PC, that's not the case. I can go to Epic, I can go to GOG, I can go to Steam, I can go to Microsoft. I can, there's plenty of stores available, right?
I can go to those stores, get it cheaper,
right? And I get a choice. I can go, oh, this is cheaper over here, and I've done that. Like, oh, hey, Epic has it on sale. I'm going to play it over here. I don't care. I'm going to play it there. That's fine, right? So some people are like, no, I'm Steam only. Okay, fine. That's good for you, right? I get to choose whatever I want, right? Amazon's got games. Cool. I'll go play. I don't care, right? Wherever I'm just playing, right? So. This is the cool thing of choice. We don't have that choice on the consoles, and that's going to become much more of a headache now, right? So, but that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, it's a trend. So I'll just have to deal with that. And unfortunately, I got to jump. I've got a meeting that I'm a little late for now, so I'll come back later if I can.
Yeah. Listen, anytime, brother. Jump back in. No sweat. Thank you so much for stopping by, Cargeet. Super appreciate it. Dreadpool, I want to bring you into the conversation, but before I do want to catch up on Super Chats. There's been quite a few of them. Let me get to the comments here. First of all, my brother, Neo Mental, who I love and sometimes want to punch in the face. He says this after dropping a $2 Super Chat. You look like a bum, sir. How unprofessional. Go yourself, brother. I don't know what to tell you. And he was giving me hugs and pounds last weekend, and this is what it's turned into. I love you, bro. I don't care what you say about
family.
Yeah, that's right. That's family for you. And he's not wrong. I look like a bum, folks. I didn't cut my hair. My mohawk's all effed up. I got a week-old beard. It's been a week. It has been a week when I tell you. That's all I got. Now Nino Vustic drops who's been a channel member for 3 months, says aloha, and aloha to you, kind sir. Fuzzy Belvedere, Crispy Bomb, Silent Cypher, Dreadpool, Harky, Chani, and Double Barrel Gaming. Hope you gentlemen are well. Aloha to all gamers. Well, thank you so much for the warm welcome, brother, and aloha to you and yours. As hopefully it's nice where you are. Unlike here, it's piss and rain all day. Danny P drops a $2 super chat and says Jim Ryan sells fart-scented pony tears only for its fans. Yikes! We lost Dredd. We'll get Dredd back here in a hot second. I'm sure he'll be right back. It says here. Okay. So he had to jump out for work, but we'll get him here back in a second. Reaver drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says this: the layoffs are one thing, but the weird "this will enable us" messaging from Matt Booty is what really bothers me. It's tone deaf and poorly worded. Yeah, I mean, I could see it, brother. I could see exactly what you're talking about. I read it live on the air yesterday, and again, I only read a piece. I didn't write his whole press release. I don't know about the enabling us stuff. I don't know what he actually meant by that. I think it's a context thing. But if you feel that it was poorly worded, brother, I am not going to argue with you on that. Sherman Jacobs drops a very generous $2 super chat and says 3 of the best beers in the business. Great panel, Sherman. Welcome. Good morning to you and the missus and the kids. We have JJ Sayin 117 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says games will be digital whether we like it or not. All will do this. As a result, Congress needs to make it a law that consumers can own digital games. Yeah, see, this is what Hargeet was just saying and being pointed about was there's going to have to be some changes to the laws if everything goes digital and we are locked into these services. I have to own my games, and there's going to have to be better consumer protection. Crispy Bomb, while we wait for Dredd to get back in here, let's grab your opinion on this. Obviously, take it wherever you want to go. This is a wide open. This turned into an open world game. Go where you want. Physical media going DOA. The layoffs. Some of the real heinous conversation about console wars and using it for that is just nasty. And of course, on the back end of the show, we're going to talk about Remake-Station 5, which again, it's a double standard, folks. I'm sorry. I don't understand it. And I do understand it. There's no roadmap for PlayStation because they had to reline their moving from gas games back to single player, and that's why they have nothing. Oh, here's Dredd. Let's see. So go take it away, Crispy.
I mean, we've seen the physical slowly dying. I mean, go to any GameStop right now. Yeah. Seriously. Like it's not something that we want, because especially us being older gamers that have had physical. I stopped buying physical a long time ago. At the end of the day, these games are so big that you are basically getting a license. And then this is where I agree with Hargeet. You know, there could be another company like Discovery. Remember this whole thing with the PlayStation? Yeah. Discovery says, "Oh, like we're not renewing, our partnership." Okay, that doesn't mean that the consumer that purchased the product should not have the license to that product.
Hello.
And this is where we get frustrated with entities like the FTC. Say you're not focusing on the things that actually affect consumers. Okay, if you're not going to make a company do it, you're going to allow that loophole to be there, then you are the problem. You are the government. Okay, you have the power to change these things. And this is where you got to give, you got to give the CMA and everything else a little credit, because they made Apple, and I just bought an iPhone 15, give us the USB port instead of the flash port that they had. And you had to buy another, piece of hardware, we're going to get this purchase out of them. The lightning, whatever freaking plug that they had. And it was stupid. Okay, because at the end of the day, the USB-C is much better. It works better. Okay, so then Apple's like, well, we're not just going to manufacture for one side, we have to do it for everybody. And that's why my iPhone 15 now has a USB-C. That's great. Awesome. Everybody has USB-C in the house now. I don't have to like have this single cord that, hope that it doesn't get a kink in it and it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Because then I have to buy another one and they overcharge on it. These are things that the government needs to do. This is where I go and say, you have to focus on these things, because at the end of the day, even if you have a disc, a newer disc, not the older ones, a newer disc, it is going to be a license. But also now, if you put your older disc in the new consoles, that's technically a license as well. So it's one of those things. They have to work on this, and that is up to them. That is up to us, I guess, as being voters and saying this needs to be a focus. The layoffs, they suck. They do. Okay. Regardless of what company has done it. I hate the rhetoric around, we told you so. 1,900 people after a merger of that size. I thought it was going to be more. I'm going to be honest with you. I have been through a merger in my company, and I saw a lot of people I don't care about because I don't work with them lose their job because there was overlap. They chose the best person for the best, aspect of what they're doing. And that's what they did, and they laid people off for it. Did they give, possibly 6 months to a year of anything? No, they gave you a severance and said, get out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they did, getting health coverage. They didn't get no health coverage. Okay. So you could give Microsoft all the smoke being a $3 trillion company. At the end of the day, what are you just going to do? Pay people to sit there and stare at their computer screen and do nothing? I mean, if you're not working, what do you want them to do? Okay, because if somebody else is taking over their job, you just want to pay people, which they're pay people to say, hey, go find another job. Is that the worst thing in the world? I don't know. I mean, I've seen far worse from other companies, including in the gaming space. So I question, acting like, number one, this is good or bad, and number two, acting like one is worse than the other. It doesn't make sense. So you could sit here and act like, like Mike left. Oh, there's a reason for, dude, you got somebody like Rod who literally left Gears, which was his baby. But at the same time, he loves Diablo more. He loves Blizzard's games more. And he's still there. Maybe Ybarra said something in that interview that you have no clue what he said, that Matt was like, no, you can't be here. You know what I mean? Like, you have to realize Microsoft has a certain aspect. They wouldn't have said, hey, we will give you health insurance. We'll give you all of this, and you can go and look for something else in the meantime. And you have up to a year in some cases to do this. I mean, you saw a couple people speak out and were mad at the fact that they went to a company that they've been dreaming of doing and got laid off. But I haven't seen anybody be like, oh, this is egregious or anything like that. And you could say, oh, well, they're going to make 1,900 people sign NDAs, or they're just going to say, look, we're giving you something that most companies wouldn't do. And they probably have proof, and they probably could show whatever has happened through these past few years. But there is a bubble there. There was a hiring frenzy. People, not enough people wanted to work there in 2020. You know what I mean?
But look at the numbers. They went from Activision went from 10,000 to 17,000. They hired 7,000 people, and why did they do that? Because everyone was sheltering in place. People needed content. They needed more people to help deliver that content. Well, there you go.
And that's where I go and say, look, like, it sucks all around.
Yeah.
Okay. I've thought many times I'm going to lose my job. When we merged, I said, am I going to lose my job? But there's one thing I can tell you about companies. The people that actually do the work generally don't lose their job. It's the people that either have an overlap in the mergers or something like that tend to be, higher paid. Okay. That there's no need for them because they have somebody better already in the company. You look at, I call it the help desk. You know what I mean? You call the help desk. Microsoft already has a great one. They don't, whatever they use, there's subsidies, there's all these things that they do that, like my company, we subsidize to another company, you know what I mean, for our help desk. Okay. Like they have that Q&A and everything else, but they use it differently than probably Activision Blizzard does. And there was probably a good portion that were released from Activision Blizzard. That does not mean that those people aren't good enough to get another job somewhere else. But to have the opportunity to have a cushion, as long as you're not a lazy individual, it's like, hey, free money, here we go. If you're just like, hey, like I need to get another job as quickly as possible, I believe within a year, you will probably be able to get a job. Now, that's up to you as a human being. That doesn't mean that, the company didn't do right by you, but they also didn't do horrible by you either. And that's where I go and say, look, like, what are we hearing about, anything that anybody else has gotten? Yeah, you could hear about a CEO on another company and say, oh, yeah, they already have shares. Like, they already have a cushion. They have the golden parachute. They really could probably sit there and never work again, possibly. So don't act like the actual people that are doing the work. You don't know who got laid off unless they say something. You know what I mean? You've seen a few that are upset because it was their dream job. I get that. You know what I mean? But a lot of us, Joe Schmoes are like, this ain't my dream job anyway. I would love to do something else. You know what I mean? And that's where, that's the disconnect. And that's where I say, like, gaming is going in a different realm. You have AI coming involved. You have a lot of other things. Like I said, I really, truly thought it was going to be more because they already put the writing on the wall. When some of these top execs at ABK were already like, hey, I'm leaving, but it's all good. I'm going to stay until we're done. You know what I mean? Like Mike was, like, I don't know, like maybe that conversation between him and Matt went that bad. You know what I mean? I don't know. But the point is let's not act like this is like the end of the world. We've seen it already. Okay. And also 7,000 people to 1,900 that were, and it wasn't all just ABK. We just don't know who was who on the other side. There is overlap there. These are multiple developers, publishers, companies that are coming together. And as that happens, I'm sure Microsoft's like, okay, well, this person's more efficient and this and that and the other thing. There's people that can run certain aspects better that maybe Activision didn't see. And that is something that I go and say, like, look, like you could say what you want about Rod. I said good riddance when he left Gears because he didn't have his heart in it anymore. And that's what I felt. But what if he's got his heart all into what he's doing now? And then he takes over for Mike. He takes over for Mike, and then he brings a linear, like his love for Blizzard games back in there and gets people excited, and does things that, we have seen but may have never seen. You don't know what somebody is capable of until they're put in that position, because he's been up there but he's never been that high. And I feel like if you're a person that has done all of these things in gaming, which he has, there is either I'm going to be done or I'm going to go up another level, and this would be another level for him. So I feel like if he is the one that becomes the president of Activision Blizzard, I think they are in great hands. Just saying.
You know what, dude? Again, I have a feeling he's next in line for it. He's done a lot of great things. He's working on his dream game. Gears obviously is where it started for him. He's always been a Diablo fan. He's put that on Front Street. But we'll big changes are coming. We'll know in a couple of days. Dread, I know that you're back, brother. Welcome. Let's get your hot take on this. Again, this is an open world game today. Any way you want to go outside of Remake-Station 5, which we'll cover on the back end of the show, where do you want to go with this? The moving to physical, moving away from physical. You think that's bad for the industry? The gaming, because I know you said you already talked about the layoffs in the opening. Yep. Please, by all means,
let's go with the next hypocrisy of physical, right? We all know that we love our physical stuff. We love showing it off. We love doing that. But I mean, Boom, we know that you have a storage unit underneath in your apartment that you've filled up, and you have to cycle through. You know, a lot of us don't have the space, and you know, when we're younger, we have those spaces that we find. We have that stuff. Unless you have a bigger house that you can do that and have an actual game room, sometimes we're limited to that. You know, and when I got the what was it, the Halo 5, because the digital code came with the console, right? So when I got that, I was like, I'm good. This is what I need. I'm good. I didn't realize it came with the digital code. But traveling with discs to my friend's house on the other side of the state was such a pain with the console, this and that. And after that, I traveled over there, and I was like, oh man, I forgot to pack my Xbox. He's like, I still got the extra one. I was like, all right. I signed in under my account. All my games that were digital were there. So it was that aha moment. What about Steam? Steam's been digital for how long? Since pretty much, what was it, 2005? They stopped having the big box, if not earlier than that, but I think 2005 was like the last big box PC game. So
it's been a very long time,
right,
dude.
So why are we complaining? Wait a second.
Yeah.
Our PCs don't have CD-ROMs, right? I still have them because of the stuff that I do. But again, like the one that I used to edit, no CD-ROM on it.
Nope.
It's all
gone.
USB.
They're removed from it. You have to buy it separately.
Network, correct. So again, it's like, you know, I understand, and I prefer to have the disk drive, because I have movies, I've got disc games, I have stuff like that. I still have. So I'm not saying that we need to get rid of it. It's just that's the direction of the industry is going. I mean, how about this, right? Right now, we are up at arms, pitchforks and fire because of this. Did that happen how many years ago when Spotify became like the big thing? We all ditched our CDs, did we not? Does anybody here know that was born in 2010 that knows any, or newer, that knows anything about a CD? My daughter had no idea. She was like, "What is?" Like,
that's
"Oh, is this
hilarious, dude."
You know what I'm saying?
That's how you know you're old, man.
But that's the thing.
I was recording stuff on tapes, bro. Come on.
Well, when my mom passed away, we gave her my mom's little jukebox as a memento, because it had cassette tapes, and she was like, "What is this?"
Can you imagine?
I still have cassette tapes.
Who didn't have dope tape #1 in their car? Because I know that me and my brother did.
Exactly.
I know we did. I know you, the Neo Mental. You're laughing because you know
recording it off the radio, people.
Right.
That's what we did.
I was
oh
doing,
my God.
Yeah, way back in high school, I was actually doing mixing by pushing play on the one deck, because I had a dual tape deck, and then and unpausing the record and trying to like mix a song by myself with just the vocals. Again, it was very primitive, you know what I mean? But again, who knows what this stuff is anymore? Nobody. So is it that big of a deal? I mean, how many people know how to drive stick in a car? Not that very many people know.
My girl does.
Okay? Right. And I'm going to be teaching my daughter how to drive stick too. She's going to be one of the few. But that's the whole thing, is technology is moving. So now here's the other thing. If they don't get rid of the discs and they keep on selling discs, right? Where are you going to sell it? Best Buy got rid of it. Target's gotten rid of it. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of
the box stores. Yeah. I mean, you might be able to get it still from online.
You'll get digital codes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, how many games did I buy for Tyler? Because I buy all of our Switch games in actual physical, like all my Switch games except for like a handful.
I do the same. Everything.
But I just bought them a couple over for the holidays, and they didn't even come with games. They came with a piece of paper inside of the case.
Right. That's where technology and the industry is headed. So and here's the other thing, right? So I believe Boom said it too earlier, was there should be like a limited run stuff. Well, they kind of have it now. If you think about it, the collector's editions, those have like different things. Think about the Starfield one, right? It didn't come with a disc, but it came with a really cool little I guess it was the Starfield money, the credits, but it had the code on it. You know what I mean? That was your game. So, and you don't have to go that extravagant with it. You can do like certain little things. Killer Instinct, right? When they came out, I bought the collector's edition. I still have it on the shelf. Again, I have never looked at it since it's been on the shelf, except for a couple times. I got the code. It's all digital. I got a couple pins with it. I put it on my pin board. The book itself, it's just like almost like a Trapper Keeper folder type deal. A 3-ring binder for those that don't know what a Trapper Keeper is.
You know what, I do because I'm old, but I remember those being the hotness.
Dude,
Trapper Keeper.
Hey, can I just say this real quick? I just want to say, think about this. Okay, anybody that has a physical collection, like I've seen some incredible size physical collections.
Me too.
Every single game just probably went up $5 after this.
Yeah.
Maybe more than that, dude. Don't, especially the hard to get stuff.
Do not get rid of it.
Hold on to everything.
And don't forget, though, you don't own anything. Even though you own you own it physically, you don't own it. The only thing that I know that I can think of that is entertainment-wise that you can physically hold and actually own, and nobody can tell you otherwise, other than when you play it publicly for like a public audience, the only thing would be vinyl. Everything else, all that digital stuff, can just go away. They can render your CD useless, even though all the information's on there. That CD can be rendered useless. What happens when your CD player dies?
Yeah.
Right, the laser no longer works. You can always put a pin and tape it to a piece of paper and roll that paper into a cone and put it on that CD, the vinyl, and just move it yourself by hand, and you will still get sound out of it. There's no way that they can do anything other than physically break it. So there's so much that people are complaining about when it comes to stuff like this. And VHS tapes, okay, you still got them, but guess what? They degrade after 5 years, and stuff starts, and that's starting to degrade. 15, 20 years, you might not be able to watch it.
That's true. No, it's
so again, it's same thing with vinyl. If you don't store it right, the heat, that's why a lot of these films that we have, the 45, the
45 millimeter.
Yeah. So all those, they have to be stored a certain way. We've lost a lot of classical films that were very important to the film industry because of the aging process of the film. That's why a lot of these people were going through and doing it. So, and that's the thing is you don't know what you really own, other than the fact that you can just hold it in your hand and say, "Hey, I got something here."
What I want to see happen for the collectors is I understand the business, right? And this is for, I saw people really pretty upset yesterday on social media, as you should be. If you are a collector of physical media, there has to at least be a way for you to get some of your favorite games. Now, Hargeet, welcome back, brother. He had mentioned, about the pricing. I'm wondering, and again, we don't know for sure. It's simply a smaller game, but it is a AAA bomb. Hellblade 2 is $50, and it is only coming to digital. It's going to be available on Xbox, and it's going to be available on PC, which I would imagine is going to be available on numerous places on PC, because that's just what they want to do. They'll sell it to anyone who wants to buy it. I'm wondering if the consumers will benefit from not having to package and send these games and make boxes and make artwork for the boxes and to ship them and to store them and to do all of these things. Now, is it right? Well, if you're a physical collector, no, no one gives a shit, because you want what you want. You're a consumer. I think there at least has to be, and I don't mean go through limited run, because I'm sorry, they suck. when it comes to delivering your stuff. They take months to deliver your items. Their shipping is probably the worst in the business. And they're one of the few out there that does like these physical special editions. I like the company a lot, but their shipping is egregious at best. I'm hoping that there is going to be, and no pun intended, a limited run of certain games for the physical the community. Because remember, even if they release 2 new digital consoles later this year as mid-gen, I hope they don't. To be honest with you, we're still gonna have. I mean, because I like Hargeet, if you gave me a choice, you said, Mr. Boomstick, you got 2 choices. Here's a $400 box, no disk drive, but this one is $500. It becomes with a disc. I'm going to take the 500 because I want the ability to. I want the choice. I don't want to be like, well, I got a brick here that only does digital shit. I don't want that. I want to have a physical. What if I have a disc? And I have quite a few of them here. And again, this gets into the thing that why do I buy my PlayStation games on disc? Could I go through the store? Sure. But PlayStation doesn't put their shit on sale. So you know what I did during the holidays? I got 4 games, 4 that I just didn't. I was not spending $70 on, and every one of those games at GameStop I spent $31. Final Fantasy 16, $31. The Last of Us 1 remake, $31. Gran Turismo 7 for my nephew Tyler, $31. And that was another one. Oh, and it wasn't $31; it was $17 for Spoken, which my brother's playing. He's like, Boom, you got to play this. Actually pretty good. So I'm going to definitely get into it because, my brother's never wrong. So I got that for $17, but I wasn't paying $70 for that. Unfortunately, if we go all digital, we're kind of stuck because Sony don't put nothing on sale. Nintendo don't put anything on sale. Very, very rare, unless you can get a Nintendo game for $50 if you buy their $100 coupon, where it gives you their digital versions of the newest game for $50. And you could do that. It's so look out for that. But good stuff, Dread, as always. Look, there you go.
$30 right here. Okay. So again, I still buy physical.
Me too.
Regardless, I'm not saying that I don't and nobody should. I'm not saying that nobody should feel the way they should. I'm just saying that the industry is going that way. And nobody stopped it back when it came to the CDs, when it came to music. Nobody stopped it with the other things, right? And if you weren't purchasing the movies or games from Best Buy or other places at Walmart, Target, then you weren't helping them maintain the status quo of, hey, look, people are buying this. What happened? I ended up realizing that it was cheaper and easier for me to go buy the games on digital versions, right? Steam was already headed that way. How come nobody complained when big box stores went that way? The PC market is already that way. So again, that's all I'm saying is it's headed that way because we never stopped it, right? We can talk about it now, but it's already too late.
Yeah.
No,
it's
you
it's
can't.
rich. I mean, listen,
you can't cry about flooding when you did nothing to prepare for the flooding.
It's very true. I just picked up a game. It was delivered yesterday. Dodonpachi Blissful Death Reincarnation 2 on the Switch. It's obviously it's a shmup. It's a shoot 'em up from and it's only available on you can't even get it through the digital store. I had to go and import the game from Japan, which it came yesterday, and it is freaking amazing. I love shooters. I'm an old school cat like that. My friend Jada Destroyer, who was on last Saturday's show, was like, Boom, you got to check this out. And I was like, holy shit. I bought it literally when we were hanging out eating dinner. I bought it. It's crazy. And the guy already got delivered. Let's bring in Silent Cypher. Silent, listen, again, this is an open world game for discussion. By all means, what is the pointed part of your conversation?
Man, there's so much to touch on, but I'll try and make it quick to the different points.
By all means, listen, if we don't get, I want to say this to the fine folks out there. Listen, I want to talk about the Remake-Station. I really do. But this is a big panel, and there's a lot going on in the industry. If we can't get to it today, rest assured, we will revisit it because there's going to be some conversation to be had about it. But I don't want to rush anyone to rush through their thoughts. So by all means, take all the time you want. We still got to get to Fuzzy, and obviously we'll get some closing thoughts. And again, the Remake-Station 5 stuff was kind of like a last minute thing because I'm getting a little annoyed as a PlayStation fan that this is the best they can offer. And I'm sorry if we don't get to it, but I think that this conversation kind of needs to be had. And I like the fact that we're having this conversation and everyone is handling it like a paraprofessional. So again, if we don't get to that second topic, folks, by all means, I apologize. But this is the big panel, and this is a big situation, and I certainly do not want to rush through it. So by all means, Silent, take all the time you want.
Okay. Well, in that case, no. So there's a couple key things that I definitely wanted to focus on that you guys have touched on a little bit, but I do think, like in regards to us seeing Mike Ibarra leave, I don't think it's just a situation of, oh, he said something wrong in this conversation. When you look at the cadence, the behavior between him and Microsoft, how he left them, how he's now leaving, but also look back to just recently when he was on stage when they were announcing at the ActiBliz event, right? Watch his cadence. Watch how he's talking about his job and this merger. He sounds like he's not thrilled about it, but he sounds like he's trying to be as professional as he can about it. He's like, I can't wait to be back home and blah, blah, blah. Like it kind of, you could tell that there's history there, right? Like there's obviously things have gone down in the past. And so like it just didn't seem like it was maybe a good fit moving forward. So I don't think this is something that was like all of a sudden like, oh, hey, these don't match up, so we're parting ways. Like I think this has been for a long time. I think there's bad blood somewhere there in the relationship. In regards to, the layoffs and all that stuff, it's frustrating because you guys also saw it on Twitter. There's been a bunch of people coming out there parading, oh man, that $3 trillion company getting rid of all those people, blah, blah, blah. And I had someone come at me didn't come at me, but posted one trying to be like the white knight of like, oh man, 3 trillion, Microsoft getting rid of those people, blah, blah, blah. When let's keep it a buck. If Sony did it, they wouldn't be making that same conversation. But when I called the person out on it, they started pretending like they were the victim. And I'm sorry, but the thing is like layoffs are layoffs. Like I don't care if it's on Sony's side, Microsoft's side, whatever. It could have been avoided in ways. You could have maybe held off for a certain period of time. You could have approached it differently. And it doesn't matter. Like, don't make it a console worry thing. It's gross. It's cringe. It's bad both ways. Like the optics of it, whoever it is that's doing it, it's not a good situation. And that human element that gets affected in the process does not help morale in general. So just that being out there, there is going to be redundancy, as a lot of you guys mentioned, right? Like there's redundancy in a lot of the positions probably. And this, unfortunately, is how this type of thing goes. They've probably been planning this since they first, approached with the acquisition. They're like, okay, we have an exit strategy for this, because a company this big, they didn't just suddenly decide this, right? Like this has been months, if not years in preparation, because that's what these companies do. That's how they've survived for as many decades as they have. So this was premeditated. This was planned to an extent. Now, things change, ebb and flow, like depending on how the market is. Obviously, the market we have now is not the same market we had in 2020 or 2021. Things have changed. The sales have changed. It's a different ecosystem and a different universe for these people selling these games and making their money back on their investments. But yeah, I mean, either way, it's unfortunate that people were going to get laid off. It was going to happen. It just, no matter what, like no matter how they did it, the optics weren't going to be great. It sucks that those people did get laid off. And hopefully I forget, I think it was Dreadpool that made the comment earlier is like, do something productive with it. If you see people are getting laid off on that side of things, if you have connections in the industry, or if you've been seeing that someone's hiring, offer those resources. Like that's a good way to make this a positive situation for a crappy situation that just happened to a lot of people, right? Like we can wallow in it and it sucks, but I think the best thing is to try and make sure that these people get back on their feet as quick as possible. Fortunately, Microsoft did the right thing and provided those insurances, right? The health insurance for these people, and provided them at least a decent package leaving the company so they can at least try and figure out what their next move is, which is good. But I'm sure any help out there, like anyone who got affected by this would appreciate any help that's available. So yeah, but besides that, the physical media side of things, I think, and we've had this conversation before, but I think it goes back to a thing, right? Like physical media is not the same physical media as it was back in 2010, 2012 even. The stuff that you've been purchasing, just like what Dreadpool was touching on, what Hargeet, Crispy, everyone's been mentioning, is like you're getting a license, right? So this item that you're getting, and I want people to keep this in mind because I've got a close group of friends outside of the podcast side of things that like they're diehard physical. And I keep having the same conversation with them over and over again. The physical copies you're getting are usually nowadays about 80% download, 20% data on
yeah, they're a
actual
shell of their
disc.
former self, brother, for sure.
Yeah, it's you can't
Right now, this
put
is
a
the only way
disc
you can
in.
get a physical that you
Exactly.
can actually own, right? That everything is here. So far.
Exactly. It's a very limited set of games that come out now, and it's usually on Nintendo mainly, but it's a very limited set of games that come out that you can play right out of the package. Mostly there's a day one update, or you're downloading a majority of the game over the service, and that's their authentication point where they can verify you're not using a fake copy. So things have changed a lot. Like physical is not the physical we grew up with in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Things have changed.
Yep.
And I understand wanting to hold on to physical, but you don't take it with you when you're gone. And like it's cool to have statues and stuff like that. Like invest in what makes you enjoy your house, your surroundings and stuff. But no, like what we have now is not the same. Like the vinyls I have upstairs are a different form of media versus what we have now. If I get a disc right now, I can't just throw it in and play it right now. I got to get an update. If I put that vinyl on the record player, I can listen to music right now.
Well, like I said before, if your record player is broken, you can still use your finger.
Yeah, you can still do it.
And you can still hear. So again, it's a different form. But that's the only thing that I could come up with that would be relevant to actually owning and still the livelihood still being there, other than breaking the record.
Yeah. So I mean, those are my key takeaways on those things. But I think this has been a conversation that a lot of people, and I get it, right? Like I still have some physical things that I cling on to as well. I feel like the last time I moved, I kind of got more to a minimalist mindset on certain things.
Well, when you're moving, the reality sets in that you got to find you. It sucks. I mean, listen, I'm gonna tell you this right now. It's funny you say that. Mrs. Boom and I needed a bigger storage space because the one that we had, we outgrew, and like most people, big surprise, most of our shit in storage is all Christmas. We got Christmas for 10 houses. Somehow they're all in our storage. It's fine because that's our favorite time of the year. You've seen the house. It gets decked out. And Jose, meaning Mrs. Boom, of course, she starts planning next year's Christmas the minute we finish putting Christmas up. She's like, okay, next year it's going to be, nutcrackers or gingerbread, whatever. She's already cooking, right? That's why everything looks so good. So we had to move. And I got to tell you, dude, like, when I wasn't podcasting for like a week, because Mrs. Boom, she still works, I was moving the stuff and I'm like, God damn it, I have so much shit. Why do I have so much stuff? It's crazy. I took pictures. I saw you guys, and you know where it is? Back in storage in new containers. But I'm like, some of the stuff I have is worth a lot of money. And I'm like, I should just sell this shit. People are like, Boom, you should sell that shit. You can get the house quicker. I'm like, you guys are onto something. Maybe I should get rid of this shit.
And I'm not, I mean, by no means am I saying like get rid of everything that you have that you enjoy and stuff like that. But it's just one of those things, right? Like as you get older, you prioritize certain things. And especially when you're in the middle of a move or you're trying to downsize for a move, even if you're moving to a bigger location, you still have to do that downsizing. And I just feel like, especially with this, because personally for me, right, like when 2013 rolled around, we got our Xbox Ones, I shifted very digital. And it saved me a lot. Like it saved me a lot of headache. Like I remember going through all the discs and all of the cases and everything when I was doing the move, and it was a nightmare, and I would never do it again. But now those,
and I think part of it falls down to those of us that have been married have heard this piece of advice: pick your battles wisely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, this is one of those things of as you get older, you start realizing that, all right, maybe some of these cases aren't doing me any justice because they're just taking up space where I could put a picture there that is the family or some other things that are more monumental, as in a personal way of feeling of showing off. Hey, check out, my family. This is my daughter. This is my son. This is my
priority
aunt, uncle. Yeah, things change like that. So again, it's. I think some of us get stuck on certain things, and because we just do not want to change, and now you become that old get off my lawn old man.
I'm already there, brother.
Yeah,
I'm already there too.
But that's
you're yelling at the sun.
Yeah, but we also. And that's the thing is we also we don't want anybody to be our saviors of, you tell me you're telling me what to do. We don't want to be that guy for you also. We don't want to be those false impersonators or any of that stuff.
I mean,
again,
I understand the collection aspect of it. No one knows more than me. Obviously I shared with the community what I have in storage, and that's honestly, that's probably about half of it, dude. There was so much more there. It was ridiculous.
When I got married, I had to slow down my Boba Fett collection. I had all these different things, and that's I'm like, this is all right. There's nothing. Oh, here we go. Here's a little thing, right? Gumballs. I'm not going to hold on to the gumballs. You know what's going to happen? They're gonna just, the sugar is just going to rot. Right. And I'm going to start getting bugs in the house and stuff like that. So I got to get rid of it. But you know what? I won't push the button because I don't want to get you copyrighted for this. But again, it has a little speaker on there. The battery's on there too. The battery wears out. It'll probably leak or something. But again, it's one of those things that, my family is like, all right, well, won't get them like the big stuff. We'll get them like these little knickknacks and stuff like that, just because of space.
Even if you have a house, it's an issue. For sure. Well, I mean, listen. So far, everyone has knocked it out of the park. I want to grab your ear, brother. Again, open world game here. Take it however you want to take it, because obviously the layoffs. Look, no one on this panel is suggesting you should make lightly of it. People lost their jobs, and it's scary. And in a world where everything is so bloody expensive, and it continues to get even more expensive. Especially if you are in the West Coast. I'm sorry, I got to bring it up. Their pricing is freaking ridiculous. That's why you see people in San Francisco from some of these places like IGN living together with 6 people because they can't afford the freaking mortgage or the rent. And usually it's the rent. They don't even own it. They're just there renting the stuff.
And they're making 6 figures at that point too.
And they're making 6 figures, which is crazy. By all means, take it away, brother.
All right, I'll start off with the Mikey Barr aspect of it. Like, and Silent touched on it. Crispy touched on it. All of you guys have touched on it a bit, and I've seen this ever since he left Xbox. There's been some bad blood, and I know that there's a community member that we all know that I spoke with about, and he knows both parties, and he said since they've kind of mended whatever bridge was burned, but I always felt like there was still a little bit of friction there. So I don't think it was a matter of him being pushed out the door just or per se. I think he could have stayed if he wanted to, but part of his pride and ego, and in even though he's had rumblings with his own team over at Blizzard, the fact that that project wasn't going to be given us another chance, whether it could be fixed or righted or whatever the case may be, I guess he felt, well, then I'm not needed here. Like if I can't go to bat for my team and keep some of the key people, or get this game across the finish line, then maybe I should, look elsewhere. Or, because he is a high level executive over there, fall back on his shares and, like you said, take some vacation time. Could see him somewhere else, could be on Team Blue in a week or two, or he could be, with some of the one of the co-founders that was leaving as well, start a new studio. I could see that happening more so than anything, but we'll see how time plays out. Now, as far as layoffs suck no matter where they are, whether they're at your local grocery store, whether they're at your local dealership, whether they're at the assembly lines that make the car, whatever the case may be, layoffs suck. But they're part of business, and it's one of those things that we kind of all saw happening. Like Blizzard before the acquisition, definitely filled a lot of positions that they felt they needed to get things across the finish line. And after those things are across the finish line, a lot of those positions aren't necessarily needed. Now you can always spin up another project to have them working on something, but if the project is in the same similar state of what we've heard as Odyssey was, then maybe it's, for the best that they don't drag that across the line. And I know some people don't want to hear, okay, well, Redfall, blah, blah, blah. Like one of the games that people say, oh, they probably should have canceled that. Well, now they canceled this and there's still the same pushback. So it's like Microsoft is damned if they do.
Great point, dude. That's a phenomenal point, because I actually saw that. Yes, because they should have canceled Redfall. They canceled this. Oh my God. I can't believe it. You canceled a Blizzard game? This is outrageous. That kind of shenanigans. Yes.
Yeah, but they can't win no matter how you look at it. And it's unfortunately that gives them more of a spotlight on the fact that it is a bigger company that is very profitable with the amount of people being laid off. But in business, it's a number, and it's less than 10% overall. And I know that sounds heartless, but that's how business thinks. And we have to realize this all across the board. Another thing is, a lot of people are like the gotcha, I told you so, and things like that. I was one of those that was all for the ABK acquisition. Well, I had money invested in it because I had a lot of shares, but I also knew if it didn't go through, it was going to be a fire sale. And when I say fire sale, I know some people focused on me saying, well, Microsoft will just come in and swoop in and buy some of the IP, pennies on the dollar. But in a fire sale, they're closing studios. They're laying off a good bit of those people. So
they would have lost 10 times the amount of 1,900 if the deal would have failed.
I would say at a minimum 40 to 50% of those people would have probably been out of a job. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They would have just fallen back on the IPs that they know are bringing in money hand over fist, and that's it. Anything outside of that is not necessary, and that would have been, survival mode to keep their shareholders happy.
Yep.
That's basically what it is. But
so you're talking about 10% versus maybe at the most 60%?
Yeah.
That's what we discussed earlier. It could be a small number now or a bigger number. And on top of that, don't forget, this is layoffs. It's different from being fired.
Yeah. Because then there's no severance, there's no nothing. It's like, everybody's ushered out of the building, or don't come in Monday because we have security kind of thing. So
yes,
it would have been an uglier scene. And everybody agreed at one point that Bobby Kotick was not the guy to be in that position. Everybody wanted his head and wanted him gone, and now he's gone. Had he stayed, had they, worked out some other things where the deal didn't go through, like I said, it would have been much, much worse. But I look back and I always knew that Bobby was going to go. I knew Jim Ryan was going to go. and I always knew that Mike Ibarra was going to go. I just didn't know what the order was going to be. I honestly thought, if anything, that what do you call him? Bobby Kotick would be the last one out the door. But it wound up being he was one of the first ones out the door, followed by Ibarra. And then I guess Jim Ryan is like the last man standing. I thought he would have had an earlier exit, but nonetheless, that's my spiel on the ABK deal. It sucks. I wish those that got laid off the best. I would say use that severance efficiently as best you can while you're working your butt off to find something else. And for anybody else that might be on that borderline of being laid off wherever they're at, always keep your resume, up to date. Always look, even if you're, comfortable in the job you're in, look. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to find out what you're worth elsewhere, and maybe that move might be worth the transition. But even if you're, pardon the terms, fat and happy where you're at, and it doesn't look like you're ever going to be on a chopping block, still look. It can't hurt. Unless there's times where it gets back to your company, but that's a whole nother story. But it all depends on how you go about things. But that's all I'm gonna say on that. As far as the physical versus digital, I've been saying this for a while. Good riddance. Like I know I'm going to anger people about the physical aspect, but we lost that battle at the beginning of the Xbox One and PS4 generation. There is no turning back. The faster we get rid of physical, probably the better. Although we now need to start putting our feet, planted on the ground and daring them to cross this line to start talking about digital ownership in the sense of they want to push NFTs. I hate that term because of how they've gone about it and the greed and the nuance that they've tried to focus on the consumer with it. I think we need to turn that into, you should be able to sell your digital games, trade your digital games, or pass them on to your children or whomever. And that should be the focus on NFTs or anything when it comes to digital. The conversations now need to be about that, because if it's not, we're going to be crying when we can't do these things in like 5 or 6 years. Like, you already got Ubisoft talking about people need to get comfortable with not owning their digital games. Like, we see the writing on the wall. Physical's already out the door. They're license keys. They don't have the full game. If the game is on there at all other than the license key, if the drawback is internet is not the greatest across the globe, but that is the time frame we live in. So as long as there's internet, there's always going to be a requirement to possibly be digital first, physical last kind of thing. The physical would just be the access key to the online download, day one updates, and constant server checks. I mean, we didn't push back enough when they were talking about single player games being always online. That should have been a bigger fight way back. And people did, push up against it, but they still went and bought the game. They still went and bought other games that are always online that are single player. If you're still buying those games, then you're part of the problem. You defeated your own argument at that point. But all in all, I think the big thing now is we need to take a stand as far as making sure that we can have it where the things that we quote unquote own digitally can be sold, traded, or passed on. Because per the user agreement licenses that we all sign but don't read, or agree to and don't read fully, if you were to pass and your kids log into your account, that is a break of the user agreement, and that account can be terminated, and there's no refunds at that point. So these are the things that we need to start talking to these companies about. Like, hey, I know it's a morbid subject, but it's like, hey, I want to be able to pass on my 1,200 games to my kids, because that's a lot of money and that's a lot of a collection that they can probably put to use. Maybe their kids could put to use, or their kids' kids could put to use. We need to start focusing
it's
on
also
those things.
In the conversation of game preservation. I'm sorry. Like I know that this may not be the conversation of the universe, but that's something to be said. I mean, again, we're not going to be here forever, and you'd like to think that your kids will be able to say, hey, I have a console, because I know that I could go right now into my storage and boot up my Vectrex, which no one even remembers what the hell that is. It works. I have 12 cartridges. and I could plug it in. I could pop that cartridge in, and I could play the one of the clean sweep, a fake Pac-Man, if you will, if you remember that. And that particular game, which by the way was made by a cigar company for this machine, and it's worth $1,000. I have a copy of it. There you go. But I could go play that right now.
Yeah, game preservation is one of those things that I know Xbox is, quote unquote champion that, but we also have to look at like when servers start going away, like was it GT Sport, their server is shut down now. And there's so many other servers that shut down after, amount of years past, that the shelf life of that game. And there needs to be something where instead of relying on hackers not hackers, but people that are, enthusiasts that create these, workarounds, like Pebble Watch, for example. Pebble went out of business. Yes, Fitbit bought them, but a lot of people that bought the Pebble Watch couldn't do the updates to them any further once Fitbit kind of did away with that whole lineup and support for it, that people had to go and make their own, go-to site so you can get the updates that at least still make your watch that you paid hundreds of dollars for years ago still usable to this day kind of thing. And I would rather us not have to rely on enthusiasts to do that. The companies themselves should be in some instance where it's like, okay, if we're shutting down our servers, here's something that, anybody that wants to set up a server, here's the coding or the key that you need as far as the callback to be able to run this. And then at that point, we have to have it where whether there's a third party involved or it's that you want to have your own sustainable server kind of thing, there needs to be possibilities for that. But these are things that we got to start pushing back on these companies about, because the physical one was lost long ago. I mean, we talked about some of the games as far as like even Steam with PC stuff. Like I did the research. Doom 2016 was the last physical game you could buy on PC. And it was only because enough people requested it. Doom is, the legacy of Doom being one of those things where it needed to be a physical copy. And that was the last one you could buy in a store, like a Target or like a, what do you call them? Like a Best Buy. All the other physical copies, like I think there was a physical copy for like Flight Sim, but that was also a limited run through a third party where it was like 16 discs, I think, for just that one game to be able to install it into your computer type of deal. When, it's it's not 500, it's like maybe 120 to 170 megs for the base game. Or I should say megs, gigs as far as for the base game. So having that many discs, I mean, it is what it is. But physical, I'm sorry, guys. It's a lost battle. Time to start focusing on the things that we need for digital as far as ownership, trading ability, whether to pass it on, things like that. As far as the layoffs, they suck. Wish those people the best. And, considering that the market always has new studios opening up or new teams spinning up new projects and things like that, hopefully they land quickly at something that will be reasonable for to maintain their way of life where they're at currently and so forth. But that's just my 2 cents on those two matters.
Yeah, just so you guys know, in 10, 15, 20 years, my voice is going to change to a young lady's voice. Don't be surprised. It's still me. It's just the attitude will be different. Just saying.
I love it. Yeah, listen, we may not even be people. Who the hell knows? Listen.
Well, I'm going to give it to my daughter.
We have, that's that. There you go. There you go. We have 25 minutes left, so we will cover the play briefly. We'll get everyone's brief take on it. Let me catch up on super chats. Got a lot of channel member chats on Hargeet. I'll go to you first on Remake-Station 5, which I think is just egregious at this point. I'm sorry. I mean, like The Last of Us 2 is a patch that they charge $70 for. That is ridiculous. And they continue that trend. And again, listen, Until Dawn, one of the best looking PlayStation 4 games, hands down. I beat that game twice. On my second run, I got everybody killed because I didn't give a shit because I was so mad. I got one MF got killed on the towards the end. Otherwise, I'd have had a perfect run. And I was like, yeah, let all these kids die. Who gives a shit at this point? I'm just getting some trophies, right? and I killed the hell out of everybody. It's fine. I did all kinds of stupid things. I'm like, whatever. I don't care, these knuckleheads. And I love the game. It is probably the best the company has put out. And some people will fight me on The Quarry. I have it. I actually bought it on physical for $11, something like that. And I'm like, I got to buy this game. I haven't played it yet. But I'm sorry. This Sony needs some direction here. Anyone that tries to defend what they're doing, you should be ashamed, because like we were told many years, ask for better. It's time that you ask for better from Sony. Sorry. We have Thunderdome Gaming Society, who's been a channel member for 4 months, and he says, I think physical will become more of a niche market. All of the companies like Limited Run, Premium Edition, Super Rare will pick up the slack. I 1000% agree. That's a phenomenal point. Whole Grain Bread, welcome to the program, brother. As always, he drops a very generous $5 super chat. I do remember this. He says, do you remember when CDs became a thing and CD players came with a cassette tape to play the CD? Oh my God. CD binders and 6-disc changers. Those were the days. You know, it's funny. My brother Neo Mental, when we were kids, did something so amazing. I remember he had gotten me and he took it from his own thing. He had bought it for himself and gifted it to me for Christmas because I really wanted a 6-disc changer. And it was like, wow, like I can't believe you're giving me this. And it was a cool brother moment. But yeah, 6-disc changers. I remember when I went and bought like I think it would have been a 20 or 25 one. It was massive, and I was like, yeah, Champion of Justice. Now that thing is just I didn't even know what happened to it. It's gone. It's just gone. Chaos Theory, who's been a channel member, ladies and gentlemen. Jeez, this is crazy. 50 months, almost as long as the channel has existed. Brother, that is ridiculously kind of you. He says, perfect way to spend my birthday with Boom and family. Happy birthday, Chaos Theory. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, brother. Super appreciate that. We have a new channel member, Ultron Quake. Welcome to the family, brother. Thank you for the generosity. Ryu Art Gaming drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, meanwhile, I got 10 great digital games for a $10 bundle. Enjoy every one of those games, brother. I mean, that's phenomenal. Chris R says this after dropping a very generous $5 super chat. In your opinion, do gaming executives understand that current game investment is unsustainable? Every game can't be 100 million plus investment and succeed. I mean, Sony is literally reaping that right now. Spider-Man was $300 million. Spider-Man 2. They have to sell X amount of copies, which they have not sold, by the way, to make just to make the money back. And you got to remember, Sony, and this is facts, folks. This is not an assumption. They spend as much in advertising as they do in what it costs to make a game. So if they spend $300 million to make Spider-Man 2, they probably spent that on marketing. And
they still didn't touch Power World.
And they still didn't touch Power World. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that? It should be ashamed of themselves. Yeah, and I think that's the real.
But it's thing. Not $70.
Yeah. It also cost $6.7 million versus $300 million for Spider-Man, and it has sold almost 9 million copies on just Steam. We're not going to talk about Power World. We don't talk about Fight Club. We ain't going to talk about Power World. It's just an embarrassment of riches for that company. Good on them, man. Highlander 001, generous friend of the program. Not only does he gift, once again, Foley Matrimony, 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships, he drops an additional very generous $10 super chat and says, Destin posted a screenshot where Bobby Kotick said if Microsoft was not allowed to acquire ABK, said that there would be layoffs coming. I think if Microsoft did not acquire ABK, it would be worse. There's no doubt that it would. Silent Cypher, generous friend of the panel, he has gifted, thank you so much for the generosity, brother, 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. That is incredibly kind of you, and you are a panel member. That's awesome. Thank you, sir.
Cheers, brother.
JJ Sane 117 drops an additional very generous $2 super chat and says, "And Stream Arcade is a good example of preservation. And Arcade Stream is dope. As a matter of fact, I did not know this, but Insipid Ghost put it out on the socials. There's an Indiana Jones side-scrolling game in there. I'm going to play that later on today. That looks dope. I want to play that. I bought that when it came out. I think it was like $100, but there's a lot of really cool shit on there. Ant Arcade Stream, check it out. I think it's a subscription service, or you can buy it outright. I bought it outright. And Silent Type 1. Yeah, it's absolutely worth it. If you're an old OG, yeah,
if you're gonna do it that way.
Yeah. Silent Cypher Type 1 drops an additional very generous $5 super chat and says, "When the future is staring you in the face, either adapt, adopt, or get abandoned." Shout out to the Silent Cypher for paying it forward, brother. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. So, Hargeet, let's get into PlayStation 5. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, Remake-Station 5. Yeah, Remake-Station, because it has a lot of Remake-Stations or PlayStations. Look, there is an industry a double standard going on. I'm sorry to say, I'm not specifically pointing out anyone in the gaming media, but I am pointing out to the gaming media as a whole. Where are the articles telling people that this isn't right? That, I mean, again, I'm sorry when you have one third-party developed game coming out this year and nothing else on the palette, and all you keep doing is remaking stuff. I think there's a conversation to be had. Hargeet, please, by all means, take it away.
Yeah, I don't know if you got the Ryu Art Gaming $2 focus on changing digital laws, not dead physical super chat, but shout out to
you. I did. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I actually did not get that. Somehow I missed that. Ryu Art Gaming says focus on changing digital laws and not dead physical. Yeah, good.
Good point. We do need to have some digital law changes, right? Like Fuzzy was mentioning about the inheritance laws. That is a major headache. What do you do? And it's not just on games. It's everything, right? So how does that work if you had bought a whole bunch of movies, a whole bunch of music? How does that transfer?
Well,
it's a headache.
Ironically, you say that Ice Queen had that same issue. Her husband had passed, and she was able to present that to Microsoft, and they allowed her to.
Oh wow!
Take over. So again, I'm sure it's a case by case basis. It's not a across the board because they don't want that advertised. But people want to complain about things, and they don't know that there's other things going on in the background that they're complaining that are actually happening that would be in their favor. But like you said and Fuzzy said, we should be able to pass it down or sell or anything. And that's where I was saying before, when NFTs came out and blockchains, and everybody's like, oh, this is bad. I'm like, well, in the gaming space, it's not. I know a company that is still trying to come out with their console. Okay, fine, I'll say it. The Amico. That is what they're trying to do. When they come out with if and when it comes out, you would be able to sell back your games or sell it to another person. So again, it's all digital. You own it, and you can actually sell it. And that's where the NFT blockchain.
I don't know how that's going to work, but again, at least
it can. Great, right?
It can. It's just because everybody has used it for evil.
It
is an evil thing.
It's an idea.
AI, right? AI now is the evil thing. But what happened before? You were using BASIC, and now you switched over to C and C++. Well, guess what? Those are tools. Were those evil also? Yeah, they were at first because it was like, oh my God, you're cheating. You're not physically hand typing everything. It's a tool. Xbox has said machine learning how many years ago when it came to the Xbox console? They're using machine learning. That is AI. That is the same difference. It's a tool. And people get all wrapped up in letters and names, not understanding what it actually is. It's a tool.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we're getting close to the end of the show. I don't want to keep people here past 2 hours.
My bad.
So Remake-Station. Okay, so look, like in the PS3 gen, PlayStation had to kind of come back, right? So they decided to move into this like cinematic game thing, and expansive budgets. It worked. It worked to give them a good foothold that generation. They started to pick up again, and then PS4 they took off, right? The problem is it was unsustainable, and that's not from me. That's from the head of it. Sean Layden told us, hey, this is just not sustainable. As we keep doing this, it's going to keep becoming a problem. Other people started copying that. They had to. There's no choice. If this is what the market leader at the time is starting to do, then, well, everybody kind of follows suit. The problem with that is it is unsustainable because of, like, how do you continue to sell that to the point where you can actually make money? And, you know, you might get a hit or two. You might get like even 4 or 5. But you have others that won't work. Here's a classic example. You had Last of Us Part 2 come out. While they were making that, they were making the online version of it, right? And that online version kept going and kept going. It was originally it was supposed to come out with the game, along with it, included in the price. Then, oh no, we can't do it. It's going to be a little bit delayed. And then it's going to be a separate game, and it just got canned, right? But that's investment they made for that many years, right? It's got to be at least 5 years, right?
I think it was 5 years worth of. I mean, I think officially, I think they said 3, but we know it's longer than that,
right? So as long as that's that much money that was invested in a very large team, that's got to be well over $100 million. What's the return on that?
Nothing.
Zilch.
The game is dead.
So now you have to make that up somewhere else, right? Like by making a remaster of the same game. Right, so that you can say, okay, hey, if I get another 2 million sales of that, 3 million sales of that, it's just cash, right? What's the investment cost to remaster that thing? Not much, right? So, and it looks almost the same, right? So there's going to be some cost, but it's not going to be a lot, right? So say they spent 5 million making that remaster. Hopefully they sell and get another 30, 40, 50, 100 million. If they do, hey, they can make up for that loss of factions too. That's the calculus, and unfortunately, that's where they are. Right, as you keep making these expansive things, if you bet high on a very large studio, right, and Odyssey, right, you can say the same thing with Project Odyssey at Blizzard. If you keep pouring money into 100 plus 200 people, eventually you have to say, I need a return on this. If this game isn't looking like it's going to get anywhere, then scrap it. And the classic example of why this is the right model, with like what Phil Spencer said, taking a AAA studio and saying, go make something that's, you know, going to be a live service game and you're not used to it. Well, okay. Now Blizzard is used to it, right? They have done it. They've done it several times. So maybe they can strike gold yet again. Pal World is the classic example of how you actually do it. The investment is so small, who cares? You can easily sustain 5 to 7 million in loss. That's fine, right? You can write that off. When it's 100, 200 million, that's hard to lose. It's just hard to lose, right? And that's where the problems start to occur. This big, massive AAA thing. Now you say, like Boom, you're saying that Hellblade was AAA. Actually, it's only 40 people. Technically, AAA means you have a couple hundred developers.
By terms, it's AA. Actually,
it's AA. And you know what? To me, that's perfect. Yeah. I think that's the much better angle, right? It gives you a small chunk game that you can play. It doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. I think that's the right path. Avowed to me seems like AA to me as well. Fine. I'm fine by that. I don't care. That's good.
And to your point, Hargi, you have 40 devs that just want to make this game super special.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? Like that's the point. Like gaming is all in your own head. And if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. It doesn't matter what even us on this panel say.
Yep. Now, from last year, one of my most played games was Grounded. Right? A game that was a small team.
What was it made by 12 people? Yeah.
So
12 people made that game.
And again, that's the kind of thing, right? So what was the development cost on that? Probably in the same 5 to 10 million range, right? So you don't have, even if it failed, okay, you take the hit, right? Okay, Pentiment, how much do you think that costs? But hey, whatever, right? If it makes its money back, it's good. If it makes much more than that, that's just profit, right? And you know, I don't know how much Grounded is made. It certainly has resonated with me and many other gamers who put hundreds of hours into that game. I was near 200 hours into Grounded. So, you know, this is just the way it is, right? So I think that's where it makes more sense. A small team that has passion about doing something interesting, let them try it, right? If it's a small thing, small budget, your losses are contained and you can try something out, right? And Shrouded is the new one, I think, something like that is the new game that's now just like Power World is somewhat taking off. But anyway, so That's where I think it makes more sense. The thing that PlayStation did with the remakes, why they're doing that is they have to, bring back that money because not all their games sell enough. That's just the way it is. People keep looking at, hey, God of War sold like 23 million. That means all their games. No, they don't. Most of their games don't hit 10 million. That's a problem. It's just a reality. And that starts to make it tough for them to sustain that massive budget, right? This is a problem that they have to grapple with. I think Microsoft did it kind of a different way, saying, hey, look, we know that this game, Minecraft, works. We can expand it. Let's just go buy it and then expand it, right? They've tripled its user base. Okay, that's awesome, right? That's a good way to expand and make money, right? And you could take a chance on a team and say, make something like Grounded. Sure, why not? Take, what was the one that Bleeding Edge? Was that the game that Ninja Theory made that failed miserably?
Yeah.
Cool. But how much do you think it cost them to make that? 4 million, 5 million? Is that a hit to Microsoft's budget? No, it's still, they'll sustain it. It's a big deal. No, that's the thing, right? They don't have to remaster that and remaster this thing to make that. They don't, whatever. It's 5 million. Okay. They'll sustain it, right? That's the difference. Whereas if you said, hey, you know what? Let's take, Call of Duty and let's take that in team and go make something totally different and see if it works. Well, okay. You're taking several thousand people now. Is that a sustainable thing to do? You'd have to make sure it's something that's workable. And this is something they're going to have to deal as a calculus while they're working through, should, Infinity Ward, should Sledgehammer, should they be working on other things? And these are teams, I think Sledgehammer was hit quite a bit with this, right? With this layoff. So is it viable to have them do something else? I don't know. They'll have to work through that, right? And Sony is kind of running into that. And that's why you're seeing all this. And also they pivoted. They told their studios, go make live games. And they're like, well, okay, we'll try to do that. But it's not easy to do. And when you find out that didn't work for most of their studios, then you have to pivot back. And so there's a little bit of a gap. There's going to be a little delay. They still have world-class studios and they will make world-class games. I'm sure they will come up with awesome games. It'll just be a few years out. That's fine. In the interim, they have gone and made third-party deals. That's why they still have Rise of the Ronin and Final Fantasy coming this year and stuff like that, right? So, and Foam Stars, right? Fine. This is all fine. Like that's kind of how they're sustaining. They still have exclusives, but they're not first-party exclusives. They're just third-party exclusives, right? And that's fine. It is what it is. That's going to sustain them for a bit, and then they'll come back. But you will see a lot more of this. And to be fair, Microsoft's doing that, but they usually are doing it for games that were on older generations to bring them up to a newer, modern experience, right? The controls are different. The graphics can be upgraded quite a bit. Right. Yeah, exactly. Quality of life improvements, things like that. Right. So I think that is more. So I want to see like Fallout 1 and 2, like totally redone in a modern, like, why not? Right. Let's bring those to modern level. Original
Or
Elder Scrolls
like
1,
Gears
2.
of War 1, 2, and 3 remade in a new engine potentially,
right?
Yeah,
but at least games that were totally different models, right? Like let's bring those. I'd love to see that Elder Scrolls 1, 2, and 3 brought forward into modern world, right? Let's see that happen, right? So I'm totally for those kind of things because it makes people who've never experienced any of that because they were very old games. For new gamers, this is a new chance for them to come into it. It's a new chance for somebody to play the Mass Effect trilogy when it came out. Was it 2 years ago now? Something like that. 2 years ago with that Legendary Edition or whatever it was. Like that's the thing to do, right? To say, hey, let's reintroduce this. This was a couple of gens now. Let's see if people would resonate with this. It was a fantastic series. Let's modernize it a bit and let's bring that to a new audience. I get that. But when it's like a 2-3-year-old game, the reason you're doing that is it's to get money. That's it. And I get that. I understand their financials. They have to do something. And they're scared. And we saw that from the slides of Call of Duty moving a bit over to Xbox. If that happens, it's really a big deal for them. They were saying $1.5 billion loss to them. That's a big deal for them, right? So it may not sound like a lot when you make 29-30 billion, but look, a lot of that is sunk costs that they have to spend to make that happen. So they're not making profit of that 30 billion, right? Their profit's in that 1.5 to 2 range. If they lose 1.5 of profit, because that's what that was for them, that's a huge problem. And they're trying to supplement that. So they greenlit a whole bunch of these things. I get it. It's kind of weird, but that's where they are. So I don't blame them for doing it. I get it. I get the financials. It's weird from a consumer perspective to say, hey, didn't I just play this game a couple of years ago? Why are you remastering it? Yeah, but it makes money. If it works, they will keep doing it. If people buy, 2-3 million copies, they will keep doing it. What I'm surprised by is this is the chance to make it PC as well. Where's the PC port? Why didn't it just come simultaneously? this new remaster is simultaneous drop PS5 and PC. That would have made a lot more sense because you're going to do a little bit of marketing with it, right? You might as well get the PC crowd. I don't know where that is. That part of it is always
according to the leak, and again, I saw this Hazardor Gaming had put this out a couple of days ago, where there is a significant amount of supposedly big announcements coming at a state of play. Again, this is
for PC ports. They need to kind of push the PC ports, man. They just need to kind of get that market. And look, I understand it's going to be kind of weird to keep seeing these remasters, but I get it. Financially, they have to kind of recoup that money. And I'm hoping they've learned that lesson, that they need to shift focus. It seems the messaging we're getting now from their management is, okay, what Xbox is doing. That seems to be their roadmap now, right? And hopefully they learn the lesson. Look, AA's are fine. You don't need to go crazy. Every game does not have to be God of War. Slow it down. Those gravity rushes and stuff like that, those are fine. You can make those games. They don't have to cost you an arm and a leg, and they may just make their money back and give you a little bit of profit. That's good enough. It also gives you diversity, right? If this type of game doesn't work, maybe that type of game will work. Maybe you'll strike gold. You don't know, right? You have to try. So it looks like they're always 5 years behind what Xbox does. So whatever
they really are. I'm just saying that it's interesting that we're not seeing that the industry, the gaming media, is keeping it a buck, as the kids like to say, which is a little disappointing. Crispy Bomb, where is the keep that same energy for gaming media? Because, like I said, if the shoe was on the other foot, I'm sorry. I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but there would be article after article after article about, oh my God, they got nothing. They're not doing anything. Listen, again, it's Until Dawn, great game, and that's just the tip of the spear. Now, I'm not going to front here. If you told me tomorrow that they were going to somehow bring MotorStorm to the PlayStation 5, I'm first one in line at midnight. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm buying that game because
they got one better though, Boom. They got
that?
one better. Twisted Metal.
Well, yes, yeah. Twisted Metal Black, by the way, the best in the series. Why not remake that game? That released on like the PS3,
PS2,
right? PS2.
PS2.
Holy, see, and then I could justify that. That game is decades old. Remaster that. Give me.
They came out with a series, which was amazing, by the way. I just recently watched it. It was so good. You could actually make a story from this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can change the game. You can make a new iteration. Just call it Twisted Metal again. Start over. You can do that now. PS2, how long ago was that? Yes, it was at the complete end of PS2, and it probably released on PS3, I'm pretty sure. So just think about that. Like, Sony, you have IPs that people adore. And trust me, I hate the NFL for making me get Peacock, but I'm going to tell you right now, after I watched the TED series and Twisted Metal, after I was like, yo, I need Twisted Metal back. I need the absolute, like, soccer cars on steroids. Okay, blow people up. Let's go, bro. Like, seriously, I love Twisted Metal. Okay, I actually love Vigilante 8. And whoever has the IP, Xbox, go grab it. I don't know who has the IP, but
that's an Activision.
For the love of God, well, there you go. Okay, bring back some no holds bar. Let's blow each other up. Okay, it's like World of Tanks, but with faster vehicles. Okay, that's not a bad thing. And they have Twisted Metal. Why don't you bring that out? Okay, like I bring up SOCOM all the time, but seriously, Twisted Metal is one of a kind right now. There's nothing like it. Be that zeitgeist. Okay, you don't even have to copy nobody. You have
it used to be the zeitgeist.
Vigilante 8 copied Twisted Metal, the OGs. Okay, in the beginning of the PS2. Like, come on, man. Like, you guys have IPs that I would buy a PS5 for this game, bro. I would. Okay? Like, you gotta understand, like, Until Dawn, I have no disrespect for that game. I've never played it. but the amount of people that have told me that it's an amazing experience, I just want to, I want to have that as an extra thing to say, hey, like I bought a PS5. Here's another game. You know what I mean? Because it's not my jam, but I might like it. And that's what I go and say, like, look, like that's what Xbox is giving us right now. That's where I say Game Pass is something else, because you play games that you don't think you're going to like, and then all of a sudden you like them. It's because it costs you your subscription. It's not the worst thing in the world. That's where I say, like, dude, like, you want to gravitate people, start dropping all of your new games, even if it's not the old ones right away, right into your subscription. You will make money. Clearly, Microsoft would have stopped doing it a while ago. I'm just saying, even through all the crap that they got about it, they are still dropping day and date games right in there. Okay? PlayStation, if you want to pivot correctly, you can make the games that you want to make, but stop giving us remasters, because it's not a remake. Okay? People call Gears of War Ultimate Edition a remaster. It is a remake. I played the OG. Okay? They gave it to us for free before they brought this game out. It is not the same. All right? Don't sit here and act like you are some kind of magical thing that says, hey, I can put out a remaster from 3 years ago and think you're going to get the same nuances that Power World's getting right now. Sorry, Power World is not Pokemon. It is like Ark and Pokemon and a bunch of other games had a baby, even Fortnite. Okay? Like, they did something that, yes, it's been done before, but they took every single thing that they wanted from each of these games and said, this is great. Okay? And we're going to make this great. And it's only in preview, and it's only on Xbox right now. And people are foaming at the mouth. Either they hate it or they love it. That's where I say, like, you have Twisted Metal just sitting there in front of you, and you released a show about it, and people actually liked it. You're coming out with another season, which I'm looking forward to. Can you actually look at the IP you have and say, we can make this even better, and not just make a remaster or whatever you want to call it, and just actually make a new version of a game that you've had for so long? If you're going to do this remaster bullshit, do it right.
I mean, I listen, you can't argue it. I have no problem seeing them remaster something from the PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation 4 era. At least it was old. Not something that's 3.5 years old. It's ridiculous. Silent Cypher, let's bring you in on the conversation real quick. What are your thoughts on the remaster station? Is this becoming an epidemic?
So the thing that I was going to jump into from Crispy Bum's statements is, like, I totally agree, right? Like, I want those older franchises to come back. They're sitting on a wealth of different IPs that they've literally just let sit dormant. And it's embarrassing because realistically, like, both Microsoft, I mean, even Nintendo has some that they don't hit all the time, but like,
Yep.
you look at Sony and Xbox's, like, their bench has so much old IP that they could utilize, and they just don't do it. Like, it's kind of a disservice to that, because like, they could jump in, they could bring those things back out. They just don't do it. And the thing is like, it goes back to what Hargeet's saying, right? Is I understand what we want, because we want those Twisted Metals, we want those SOCOMs, we want those things. But in the business perspective, it is cheaper for them to make Last of Us 2 again, because it takes almost no resources, because it was just made. So them pumping one of those out to us versus actually bringing us like a remaster or remake of a Twisted Metal is different, because there's more work involved in it, right? So like, while I want those old things, I understand that the greed is what's affecting the decision on a lot of these ones, right? Like, seeing these games that came out just a couple years ago, it makes sense for them because, again, like Hargeet mentioned, they're needing to recoup on some of those losses that they've had. They're trying to collect that money so they can build things. The unfortunate thing is we saw this with them. Like, they changed their stance. Like, we see every generation, every time that Sony gets confident, then they step on a rake. Every time Microsoft gets confident, they step on a rake. The problem is it feels like Sony waited too long to react to stepping on the rake. It's like they were sitting there kind of dazed for a while, like, oh, what did I just do? Instead of actually reacting, they just kind of sat there and like, well, the system will still sell. It's fine. It doesn't matter. And they're shifting now, but it's going to take a while for them to get back to a decent cadence and actually start bringing stuff out. Like, we've seen it with the release schedule for this year, right? Like, yes, there are things that are coming out, but versus a normal Sony year or versus what you would consider a good year, it's not a good year for them. And they're obviously in the background trying to work on some of these things, but it's going to take a while for them to spin it up. They made a misstep and they're trying to adjust, but it's going to take a while.
Yep,
so
it is. And that listen, again, we don't know what's happening at the end of the year. We know Wolverine has been delayed because of the leak. We know Spider-Man 3 has been delayed. Even the Venom game that was expected at the end of this year is going to get pushed because they can't put those assets out there. Obviously, they're out there. This leak was devastating, and of course, Insomniac, they have been carrying Sony for a while. Like I said, I think Crispy's onto something. Where if you're putting out a TV show, where's the game? I would have bought a new Twisted Metal in a freaking second. As a matter of fact, this is what I said. Why isn't that a gas game? Just like the soccer.
Why not? Right? I mean, that's what World of Tanks is. It's a gas game. Yes, dude.
Yeah, they could have. If
Gran
they would have
Turismo.
put out, and we'll get to you right now, Dredd. If they would have put out a Twisted Metal that's kind of like soccer cars, not that you're pushing a ball around, that you're shooting other freaking cars, people would have lined up to buy a Batmobile that you can play in this freaking game, because I would have bought it too. And I don't understand what's going on over there. Dreadpool, let's talk about Remake-Station 5. Why is this happening? Do you want change?
Oh, we all want change. I'm gonna just kind of backtrack a second. Gran Turismo, that would have been another thing if they would have tied the movie in to the latest release of Gran Turismo. That would have helped push that button of just an add-on, something, something to tie it in together.
Do you know that I had to buy Gran Turismo 7 because my nephew Tyler went to the theater, saw the film. He is not a PlayStation kid. He's a Nintendo kid. And he was like, Theo, do you have it? And I'm like, I don't, but well, we have to get it. When he says we, he means me. And I wound up getting it, but I wound up getting it on a deal, which is fine. I spent $31 on it. And he comes over, and he's coming over today. And what is he going to do? Is it ready for me? Kid, it's all yours. Take it away. And he'll play Gran Turismo and he'll enjoy it. But that was a big miss for Sony once again. Yeah.
Yeah. See it. But that ties into where we're going now, right? That ties into what both Hargeet and Silent Cypher was talking about, where they have to obviously minimize the cost of building the game, and then obviously those remakes are the easiest way to move forward, to resell the game at a full price or a higher price. Something like that. Gran Turismo could have been an easy add-on. Not much work. I mean, you just made some custom paint schemes. You do a few things just to tie it in, and right there you sell that for a little bit of money for a little bit of work, and that would be huge numbers. So again, it's like they need to get back into what they were doing, right? They need to get back into the PlayStation 2 era. They need to get back into their early PlayStation 4 era. Because at that point in time, they were humble and they were figuring out how to win and not we're the king of everything. Because what happened to PS3? Get a second job, right? What happened right now with PS5? You have, the PlayStation Portal. We are going to count that as a separate console. How do you do? What's the point of that? Oh, well, it's increasing the numbers of how many consoles sold, which is basically inflation of exaggeration. It's not even, you can't play nothing with it unless you're attached to a console. So again, and internally they are using the metrics, the same metrics that Microsoft is doing. They've been saying it from years now. They're counting user. They're not counting console. But when they sell it to you, they're selling it to you with the higher number. What's the higher number? The consoles. So what did they just do? They overinflated the console sales by including the Portal as a console. So again, they're manipulating the numbers, but they know the true numbers of users, So we've talked about Spider-Man barely selling 1/10 of the console base. That doesn't make sense. It should be bigger, but it's not. Because again, how many consoles did you buy? How many consoles did you buy? Right? You traded in all the other consoles and bought the next one because it was another design on it or a logo, right? So you bought the original PlayStation 4. You bought the PlayStation 4 God of War. You bought the PlayStation 4 Star Wars. You bought, you know what I'm saying? But each one was traded in. You only have one console. So what was you know what I'm saying? But they're counting each one as a sale. So that number is inflated 4-1. Yeah. So again, doing that was is basically the deceptive practices that I always say, but they need to stop being, I don't know. It's kind of like keeping up with the Joneses, where you don't have the money, but you're pretending like you're one of those people, and it's like, just be yourself. And that's what we want. We want Sony to be themselves. We want.
Oh, they got to get weird again for sure.
Yeah,
but
we need them. We need them to do what they do, how they do, without the deceptive practices part of it. We need them to be Sony again, where they are ultra competitive.
They bleed us dry for. They try to get blood from a stone. Sorry, that's just their new way of being, and it sucks.
Give me a game that's 2 generations old, not 2 years old.
Yeah, great point.
And older, right? And older.
Yeah.
Give us something like that. We've said all these older games. Siphon Filter is one of the ones I keep asking for.
Yeah, I don't know how that wasn't in development. I don't understand it, but then again, there's no Splinter Cell either. So
those would be great remakes. But at the same time, if you want to do something like that, we're gonna go from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5. We're gonna fully charge you a full price game for basically what? Just a little bit of
the patch. That's all it is. It's a perfect example. But I mean, good stuff, man. Listen, Fuzzy, close us out before we get everyone out of here. Before we do, though, we have a new channel member. MF Great has become a channel member. Thank you so much for that. And Sir X-Man drops not one, but $2 super chat and says, I love playing MDK, which was dope. And Rygar on Antstream, awesome. Yeah, Rygar. Wow. Yeah, I played it. When I bought it, it's one of the first games I played, and it's phenomenal. And his second $2 super chat says, Grip is like Twisted Metal on Xbox, and I love it. I didn't even know about that game, to be honest with you. I got to check it out. So, Fuzzy Beverdale, come on, let's talk about it real quick. The Remake-Station 5, if people are getting this, listen, me personally, they're not getting. I wouldn't even give them the $10 for the upgrade for Last of Us 2. I just won't. It is a patch that they could have done for free, and nobody wants to play as Ellie playing the guitar. No one gives a shit. Honestly, no one cares. Sorry, just no one. Like I said, if I'm telling you, if you would have let me play as a clicker, I might have dropped the $10. If I'd have been a clicker playing the guitar and hearing him click as I was doing the strings, I was like, you know what? They're onto something here. You could have my $10 PlayStation. But they didn't. So no one cares. And this is going to continue. And I think Hargeet was onto something. They are in a pickle. And this is an example of that.
Yeah. Well, you could only do the clicker thing if they were releasing it day and date on PC. I mean, that like Hargeet said, it's a missed opportunity in general. Like I don't know. I'm still one of those that's saying put GT7 on PC, please. Just I'll buy it again. I'm part of the problem at that point, I guess. But I just go ahead and put it on PC. I don't need Forbidden West on PC today. I would have preferred you put it on PC when it first came out. Like at some point, they're eventually going to do the day and date thing. And I know PlayStation, focused people don't like that idea, but for whatever reason, for me, I love that fact on Xbox where I could either play it on my console and then continue with my same progress because of cloud saves that I don't have to pay for, although I already have Game Pass as a subscription. But any event, I can continue that same game where I left off on my console on my PC and vice versa. I think once PlayStation guys get used to that fact, especially those that have their $5,000 rigs that want to play Xbox games on PC instead of buying an Xbox to do, I think they'll enjoy having that same convenience on their PlayStation. Although I guess they would have to still do the at least PlayStation Plus Basic or Essential or whatever. But onto the Remake-Station aspect of things, they're risk averse. And I think and I know people want to laugh at me, but we'll see in a couple of years if Apple is the ones that step up and acquire them, or if it's Amazon, whatever the case is, they're not going to be able to get out of this funk of doing remasters, except for maybe releasing one, at most two first-party games a year. And I know with Xbox, they're talking about one every quarter, and it looks like we are going to have them mainly loaded on the back end of the year. But all in all, with the amount of games that Xbox has going that are new IPs or even sequels, it feels weird seeing Sony constantly focus on things that were just this previous generation and not too late into or not too early into the previous generation. They're already remastering, like something that, if anything, at this point, The Last of Us 2 should have been a dual set that they're selling. Although I guess they already sold us, the remaster, the second or is it the third remaster? At least the second remaster of The Last of Us, the original one. To remaster 2 at this early of a time frame, you should have held off on the first one, bundled those two together, released it with factions in its old state, but with new higher res graphics or whatever, and call it done at that point, and release it on PC simultaneously. Like that to me would have made more sense. And I still think this upgrade should have been the free one as opposed to the God of War one, but apples, oranges, it doesn't matter, I guess, at this point. They tried it on one where they gave it as a free upgrade, and this one they're still doing the $10 deal, which I always hated for the fact that previously the $10 upgrade was to use the DualSense controller upgrades.
Yeah.
But I bought the console that came with the controller, so like don't charge me to use a controller I already paid for. But anyway, they're going to keep on remastering stuff. I, like everybody else here, I would like for them to reach into their older catalog, whether it's the Twisted Metal, whether it's MotorStorm, whether it's SOCOM, which I honestly believe that would have been their best go-to for a games as a service type of game. And like you guys said, even Twisted Metal would be a great games as a service type of game that they could have learned from to try some things, like at least get the game out to be within the reason of the seasons of the TV series. Like I know Fallout, we've heard some rumors that there's going to be a remaster or a redo of 4 to kind of go along with the TV series. We'll see how that plays out in the next couple of months. But if you're going to be in this transmedia, bubble where it's like, oh, we have movies, we have TV shows, we have games, and you want to have them all kind of synergize and help sell or promote the other, you need to at least have the game in production. Like I really don't understand why they just didn't, hold off on Destruction All-Stars, which failed out the gate kind of thing, and put that attention to detail into making something that would be a modern day, Twisted Metal would have made more sense to me. And they did kind of do some of the cross promotion with GT7. They did just one car, which was the main car in the movie. That was the only thing that transferred over as far as you could get the GTR that was in the movie in the game. But it was only if you watched.
I actually like that movie, by the way. I just want to say that.
It was a good movie.
It wasn't a bad movie. It's just that it wasn't anything that hasn't kind of been done before in a way. Like I would have liked to have seen something more along the lines of Ford versus Ferrari type of style, as opposed to the kid off the bench type of thing, which it is based off of a true story of a couple of their players that actually came up through the ranks and actually made it into professional racing. But in all, there's so much more that they could do with games like GT7. Even though they do some updates, this last one was a bunch of crap. 2 imaginary, concept cars and a SUV, which everybody before used to make fun of Forza for having SUVs, which I don't mind having, the Trackhawk or like the Cayenne or things like that racing against each other. I mean, those sport SUVs, the actual sport SUVs, those make sense. But like a Jimmy, I guess you could race it in the snow or on the dirt track or whatever. But still, it just seems a little weird to me. But all in all, there's so much more that they could be doing, more so than remasters. They have the back catalog of better things to pick from, and I don't know why no one over on Team Blue is really asking for new IPs. Like, I think the last new IP, if I'm not mistaken, that was from a first party was Ghost of Tsushima, and that one was a phenomenal one. Why aren't we asking for more new IPs from over there? Like, I would like to see something as far as a new IP from Insomniac, given their talent that they've created with what they've had so far. A new IP from them would be pretty cool. A new IP from Naughty Dog, since they don't feel like being bothered with Uncharted series anymore, would make sense. So I don't know. Everybody always used to say Xbox guys should ask for more. I don't see that same energy over at Team Blue. If you're happy with the remasters, good on you. I'm not particularly caring for the remasters. I'm not particularly caring for waiting for stuff to come to PC. Go ahead and put it on PC. Get this PC app out there. They want to do it. It's only a matter of time before things are day and date. I still think Ben's new IP, since they couldn't do a Days Gone 2, I think that one will be the experiment, because if they have one more failure at that studio, I feel that Sony will close them, but we'll see how that works out. But I see that game possibly being the experiment for a day and date to PC, and hopefully that, ignites some sort of, spark over there for them to continue to do that. I mean, making PC guys wait, that's why your sales on PC, even on Steam or Epic, aren't what they are, or are what they are in comparison to like the day and date, titles that are coming from Xbox. But that's, here nor there. But I'm tired of the remasters, and until they start doing some of the ones we've all been looking forward to from almost 2 generations ago. But it is what it is.
I would love, like I said, go back to your back catalog. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's show. Again, we went a little extra, which is great. Everyone had their, threw their bars down. I'm very happy about that. Let me just make sure that I didn't miss any of the super chats. And actually, we did have one more come in. Wingman 709 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Thanks for recommending Army of Ruin. It's awesome, dude. I was playing it this morning. I just unlocked another character. That game is crack cocaine. It is just I can't stop playing. I got Tekken 8 loaded up, ready to rock and roll. I got to get back into Power World, and all I want to play is the $8 Army of Ruin. If you like Dark Souls, if you like Vampire Survivors and you want an evolution of that, because obviously that's 8-bit, even you can even say it's 16-bit. Army of Ruin is a 3D model rendered Vampire Survivors with a D&D skin. It is phenomenal. An absolutely astounding game. I got more than half of the achievements already. It's so good. It is just ridiculous. But let's get everyone out of here. Hargeet, sell your brand, brother. Are you going to be on this week's new episode with Asa and of course Septic Sauce?
No, but I think there's 2 PlayStation type people that are going to be on Live. So check that out. I want to say that's true. I think it's is King Thrash going to be on? I think he's
Stop it.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I can see the sauce getting very deep.
Yeah. So I mean, what the heck? It should be an interesting
game on
thing.
daily.
More of that is reach out to the other side and talk to them, right? Because we usually just see snippets on X and don't see the actual people. I'm sure they also have some of these same thoughts. They just, unless they're on a podcast and open talk format, they probably just don't say it, right? Because I think that is the better way to do this, is just bridge the gap. Let's just talk to people. But anyway, check me out on C Money's podcast tonight at 6 o'clock U.S. Eastern time. Yes. I'll be there today, and then Fawn's Fawn's Gaming's channel,
Sunday, right?
GameStop Live on Sunday, 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time there as well. And then back here, Primetime Gaming next week on Wednesday. And we'll see what the next week brings. I'm sure that after this week's eventful fun, maybe we want to slow it down a little bit.
Maybe we'll talk about games. I would like to get back to talking about video games, actual games that we're playing. Yeah, that would be fun. Now, good stuff, Hardy.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for joining us, brother.
Yep.
Super appreciate it. Silent Cypher, sell your brand, brother. Where can people check out the Xbox International podcast? And more importantly, where can people follow you on social media?
Awesome. Well, yeah, you can find me every Wednesday at Xbox International with Sourblow, Crazy Louie, and Plume. We hang out there, have all sorts of fun, put Louie into timeout whenever he's misbehaving. You can also find our Spanish-speaking version on Friday evenings, Xbox International and Espanol. We've got a channel for that as well, so feel free if you want to pull out your Google Translator, or if you are a Spanish-speaking person, make sure you swing past there, say hi to our guys over there as well. You'll catch me this evening as well with Hargeet over on C Money's channel. So we'll be hanging out with Kareem Jovian, I think.
Yes,
so
it's going to be a good show. Yeah, King
Yeah.
David, I think, is supposed to be there as well, if I'm not
Oh, really?
mistaken. I could have sworn, unless it's the end of the month one, because they have a lot of shows just like Double Barrel Gaming. So there
Yes.
is an end of the month show that they do, which is I think it's the Block Party, which is freaking magnificent.
Oh, yeah.
They bring everybody that's anybody into the show, and it's kind of like a free for all. C Money and Doodle do that. It's phenomenal. Yes, you
Yeah.
see Money's in the chat. What's going on, brother? Welcome. So Silent Cypher, where can people follow you on social media if they want to strike up a conversation though?
Yeah, so if you want to find me on social media, I try and keep it pretty easy. It's Silent Cypher kind of across the board. Find me on Twitter being a-hole sometimes. If you want to play any games on Xbox or anything, same thing, just Silent Cypher. Look me up. Feel free to spark up a conversation, hang out, chat, whatever you want to talk about, I'm there. I'll always hang out and talk games or whatever you guys want to talk about. But Boom, thanks again for having me, and you guys have a great weekend.
Appreciate it, brother. Definitely appreciate that. Dreadpool, you threw up your stuff for everyone to see. You can follow him at linktree.com/Dreadpool, youtube.com/Dreadpool, Twitter @X at Dreadpool, TikTok at Dreadpool, hover.gg /Dreadpool. You can definitely check him out there. You can also find him every week hanging out with Wilmy Hood and the gang on Gaming Beyond the Box. Of course, he's here on Friday mornings, but he has a show that you need to check out. It's called Breaking Bread with Dread, and it's a very unusual, fun way to podcast. Sell your brand, Dreadpool. Where can people check that out? And more importantly, follow you on social media.
Yes, thank you to everyone, each one of you guys in the chat. Thank you to the panel, Hargeet, for stopping in too. And the O's are actually zeros if they're not O's. Otherwise, they're O's.
But at least they're not hoes.
Oh no, not yet. I got O's in different area codes.
It's a den of douchebaggery.
Yes, don't forget the douchebaggery.
I remember I read that the other day. Someone said something about douchebaggery on. I couldn't stop laughing. That was ridiculous.
Oh, we had a good time with it on the
funny.
Gamers Console last couple weeks ago. But again, thank you for everyone. Breaking Bread with Dread is the podcast that Boom is talking about. We do it all in person, all recording, and now we also include 360 video and kind of go with that. So appreciate it. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Spotify. It's on Anchor, Google, all the places you can find podcasts, and a lot of them are now starting to include video. So if you guys check it out, cool. I appreciate it. If not, that's fine. You do you. But we support everybody. So again, thank you all. Y'all have a good weekend.
Yes, you as well.
And there was one more thing I was going to say, and I drawn a blank, but that's fine. I'm sure I'll blurt it out later.
That's fine. Listen, if you remember, we'll get it before you get on out of here. Crispy Bomb, sell your brand, brother. Obviously, big game this week. I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think they're going to the Super Bowl again. And I'd like to see them go against the Lions, to be honest with you. I love the comeback story of their quarterback. But talk about it, brother. Where can people find you on social media, and what else you got going on?
Yes, there is a big game, and I'm going to shut my mouth. Unlike the mayor from, good old Baltimore. Hey, you keep going with that.
He might have put his foot in the mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, we've seen it before, but at Crispy Bomb on X, Crispy Bomb 28 Xbox Live, and I'm a Double Barrel Gaming exclusive. So I am here. I show up. I have the front door key, as we like to call it, and
Indeed, you
never know. I might be here Monday. I might not, but I will definitely be here on Breakfast with Boom Friday, 10 a.m. We'll see you then.
Appreciate it very much. And Fuzzy Belvedere, sell your brand, brother. We're trying to get you to 500 subscribers on your YouTube channel, which, of course, is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre, whether that's Forza Horizon 5, whether that's Forza Motorsport, or even one of your favorites, Gran Turismo 7, which you are hoping to get to PC. Where can people check out that content and, more importantly, follow you on social media?
As always, want to start off by thanking you for having me on. Always awesome being on here with the panel and our special guests, having Cargie. And Cypher is kind of like a special guest / part of member of like some of BoomStick shows. So always glad when you're with us in the morning. Always love being on here with Crispy Bomb and Dreadpool. You guys rock, man. And this is I know it's probably like a gloomy forecast as far as the news is concerned with gaming, but overall, I think us as the consumer or gamers ourselves, this is going to be a year to remember as far as for a lot of the titles that come out throughout. And let's enjoy the games that we have before us and the ones that will be coming out later this year, and try not to focus on too much negativity and whatnot and noise that's on social media. But for those who want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter, or X as it's called, at Fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on YouTube. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere, all one word. And as always, greatly appreciate everybody checking us out, interacting with us. Thank you so much for taking your time to, just hang out with us. Greatly appreciate it. Everybody have a great weekend. And I will be on Xbox Ultimate later on tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time,
Nice.
on the Fun Speculations channel. And I might be on another podcast between now and then. But just, check me out on social media. You'll get all the updates and everything from there. Thanks again.
Nice. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, once again, big thank you to all of the very big generosity that came into the show today through Super Chat, through channel membership. Mrs. Boom and I honestly cannot thank you enough for supporting the channel. It is a really big deal. And we are, again, doing some really big things. We already have on tap $3,500 worth of giveaways towards the end of the year. We're going to see if we can add a little bit more to that, some of the smaller holidays coming up. See if we can add, a couple of $100 giveaways here and there. But we can't do any of that without the support. Now, we are incredibly grateful for it. Of course, enjoy gaming, folks, on whatever you enjoy gaming on. And I'm going to close out today's show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week back here on the new episode of Breakfast with Boom.